Pike's pushed more and far enough ahead. He's got out of line. Is now Pike going to have a go at Werrell? Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still start trouble. He's left on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Moving on to the back end of Phil Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's a lot have fun. Yeah.
It's all about the entertainment,
So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is enjoying himself watching. And the Burger King machine's off into the grass a little bit there as they're really bunching up now.
Coming down to the side. Havoc! Is going to get it. Look at the Thompson! Havoc got it!
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still start trouble. He's left on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it! Big Barry!
Ladies and gents, hello and welcome back. 2 weeks in a row. We're going to go racing for the Gamer Gear Direct GT3 Endurance Racing Championship. Last weekend was the GT4s, live from Zolder. Again, running the alternate layout, same again here tonight. Qualifying's in its final stages. Scotty Rankin behind the microphone. Pete Baxter's alongside me. Pete, it's been a while between drinks for you and a broadcast. Normally you're on the receiving end in your V8 veterans as it currently is, but it's good to have you back behind the mic, I'll tell you that much.
Yes, I've been taking a little bit on the circuit, but it's lovely to be back. I know I was here for Magellan and missed the last round of the GT3 at Aragon. I was having a lovely holiday at Harvey Bay overlooking the marina, but look, it was a tough weekend to deal with. I did have to watch rain come over the marina for most of the 3 days I was down there. And guess what, Scotty? Guess what's happened since I've last commentated? Rain has come to iRacing, and I reckon we might be in for a little bit of it tonight.
Ooh, spicy. I'm just taking a quick look in server. I'll tell you what, there is some rain scheduled for the midpoint of the race. As it currently stands, it's currently 10 a.m. in Sim, and the rain is blowing in patchily from the due west. So it is a little while away. We're looking at probably in about half an hour from now that the rain will approximately be flowing into the circuit. Who knows what's potentially going to be happening in terms of the race. It does say 100% chance of rain, but I've never known a weatherman to get that 100% right.
Well, yeah, and one thing iRacing has done is they've given us the same weatherman forecast ability that everywhere else across the world. You know, they are unique, they are good forecasts, but they're never right. So, and they're always something different when you get it. The thing that I'm thinking about is, you know, we know that the fuel level in these cars is about 40 minutes into the race for a stint, but it's looking like it might get wet about 30 minutes into the race. So that's going to mix up the strategies. You're going to wet. Is it going to be patchy? Is the track going to stay dry? Is it going to get wet? what do you do? And I think tonight it's going to be, we've had a whole lot of races in this series where it's 40, 40, 20 basically to get through your 2 hours, with a little bit of overlap there if you had a safety car. Tonight, I think it's all up for grabs for everybody. And to be honest, it ain't now the fastest driver wins. It really comes down to skill and who's got the ability to set up a car for a little bit of wet weather tonight, I reckon, Scotty.
Yeah, so that's something that the drivers would have had to have been considering. But for the meantime, they've got to settle down on in and get themselves comfortable. In terms of that, we'll be talking about throughout the piece here tonight. The strategy part of that is really, really important, Pete. One of the key things that you just mentioned to me was we're looking for about that 40-minute marker. Now, rain obviously extends the fuel duration on these cars because, well, you can't be in the gas as anywhere near as often, but by how much? I'm thinking maybe 5 minutes on a stint. 5 to 10 minutes of a stint is about all we can get. And that says to me that about the run home is due about the 20-minute mark into the race. Does that mean you've got to go a little bit further? Have you got to take some risks to eliminate a stop here?
I don't think you can eliminate a stop. In fact, I actually think we're going to see 3 stops tonight. I think we'll see a stop for wet weather tyres around about the same time we'd normally see a single first stop, and then depending on how bad these showers are. So and I'm looking at the wider radar now on iRacing, and there's some big gaps between the rain coming down. Doesn't necessarily mean the track will dry out between it. So drivers just might have to stay on wets. I doubt they'd have the ability to extend 20 minutes. But how long do you stay on those wets for, and when do you come back to dries? And what's the crossover point? Who's tested it? And as you and I found out in a 12-hour race recently, just because the rain stops doesn't mean the track dries immediately. And we're looking at our weather forecast earlier. It was 18 degrees, so it's really cold, which means the water's going to stay on the track. The track temperature is going to stay really low, and it's not going to dissipate. It's going to take a lot of cars to drive around this track and get it dry again. So a lot of things to play out tonight, and I think it'll really mix up the championship. Looking forward to it, Scotty. It's exciting.
I'm already in chat. I'm already in chat roughing up Rue Koistra's mum, by the way, just to already dig a few barbs in. Good news, Rue Koistra is back in the series after having to take a forced vacation from Magellan, wasn't able to be in attendance. And there's actually another driver who's out here tonight digging a message from one of the F.A.R.T teammates. And Jimmy Middleton did pass on a message that Andrew Dutch is actually not in attendance here tonight, and that's a health-related issue. So he's a little bit under the weather and unfortunately not able to stay strapped into a sim racing seat for the entire duration. Maybe he's just scared of water. That's what I'm thinking.
No, you can't be scared of water, mate. If you're going to be a race driver, right, water is like, it's fun. I mean, I can't, it's hard to say, right? Because, what do I do at the 12 hours? I said, no, Scotty, you're driving in the water. I'll drive where the track's dry, right? So follow my own sword there. But yeah, no, to be honest, these guys have got some good aero under them, and we'll see how it goes. So looks like we're coming up for the grid.
I love commentating with you.
Oh, Scotty, the grid's up. You better.
Oh boy, the grid's up. But even more importantly than that, the rain has started in sim. I can see droplets that are already on the course. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. And I've just heard from a few drivers a few different words in the background. Oh my God, what is that? It's rain. It's already in attendance. That is what we're looking at as we start things off here tonight. Your pole position, though, Greg Brooks has managed to get it done from Stuart Shaw. Good to see those two up on the front row. Joshua Martinez, Jackson Pringle. Good to see the return of Pringle. He's hopefully in some speed here tonight. Ben Woods from Owen Coleman. Coleman a little bit deeper in the field than he necessarily would have liked. Jepson from Burhop. Richard Mair, remember, won last time out as well from Aragon. Ben Jeffrey off alongside of Rue Kois. Remember, I said he qualified well. 12th place. Great start down there for him. Throw it over to the page to Adrian Gretchen, Hugo Sutherland. From Fozzie, from Darren Burgess, Chris Pellant and Isaac Norman are going to make out your top 18. Nick Bottrell and Dean Hunt round out your top 20. Brock Caddaye and Rain Campbell outside of your 20. The first 2 cars out of there. If we start to roll off the grid, you can see spray from the pace car already. Martin Hallinan and Rick Provenzali just outside of those guys. All the way back to Matt Kidd and Jesse McMenamin. Braden O'Loughlin from Carl Hudson. James Solhani, Jimmy Middleton, Sean Bonici, Stefan Mellis, Chris Ruddle, Daniel Magri deeper in the field. Didn't get a quick qualifying time in from Magri. From there, it'll be Rob Edwards, Leith McClimate, Andrew Proctor, and Greg McIntosh are going to round out the field. And that's you down there in the good old Toyota 86 pace car, I believe, Pete, as well.
Yeah, he's sitting there, so we get the double bit. And some sad news: Andrew Proctor has had to pull out. He hasn't been able to, won't be able to race tonight. So
that's a lot of spray.
Last message I got. Who put wets on to start with, Scotty?
That is a great question. One of the big things is I can tell you the front few cars have all got the wets on. Jackson Pringle has dry tires on, from what I can tell.
Oh yeah, and this is the one thing, ladies and gents. We do. Scotty and I use different amounts of software. We use different types, and my software tells me that every driver has wet tires on tonight. So to start the race, they're all blue for me. So yes, it'll be interesting if you want those sticks on and wet. I think we'll find a bit of a
I think one of the things that we can necessarily say is I'm pretty sure the front 2 drivers are actually on that wet tire, which is Greg Brooks and Stuart Shaw.
Yeah.
Josh Martinez looks like he's on the wet. Pringle's tire, I'm less and less sure on. So.
I got him on. I've got everyone on wets, mate. I've got the whole field on wets. Yeah.
So I hope you're right.
Yeah,
because that looks too wet.
The rain has stopped falling. Looking at the radar, there's more coming.
Okay, so rain is coming. Rain is here. We said it might be about 15 minutes into the race. Well, it's going to be for the race start. It's now about 10:18 a.m. in sim time, so that's live from the circuit to give you guys a little bit of direction. Yeah, this is going to be exciting. The key thing with the wet tires as well is getting temperature into the tires full stop. Once you've got temperatures in the tire, you're generally okay, but you've just got to get temperature into them. So for now, our highest placed Challenger class driver, by the way, is Fozzie, down in 15th. So looking reasonably good from Fozzie's perspective.
All right.
This is going to be a dangerous and exploratory lap number 1. And we're in the hands of the start of the field. How soon, how late are they going to go? They're going to go very, very early. Greg Brook grabs the green flag, jumps out to an early lead. He is going to lead them round, though. How late do you brake? Who's going to be brave on the wet tire? Well, first off is Pringle trying to dive down the inside. He's going to try and grab third spot away and has managed to do so. So he's rounded up Joshua Martinez is outie. And now they're going to try and find a dry line here, Pete. And I think that's going to be the difficulty. There's a lot of rubber right down on that circuit, and everyone is exploring. Has the rain stopped? I think the rain has stopped.
There is no rain at the moment, Scotty, but there is more on the way in. So there's no real chance to really pull in and take wets. I think you just got to use them and use them on what might be a drying circuit for a little while, but there is more rain coming. So I think it's survival right now. It's not really racing for the front. So interesting. We're going to see the first chicane, an easy place to go. A little bit too deep if you're exploring, and Brooks is doing a wonderful job here. He is managing to pull out a little bit of a lead, nearly a second already halfway into the first lap.
Oh, Rick Provenzali's requested tow already. There's issues on the opening lap. Provenzali is already around. I have no idea where he is, but anyway, it's been granted, so we will not have a safety car. But already back to the pit lane goes Ricky Provenzali, and I can hear Jimmy celebrating already.
Oh, Jimmy's always going to be happy when Ricky's going to get a step back, isn't he? So, but the problem is, if Ricky now gets it back, no, he's just going to have a look at the replay. All he's done. Oh no, there has been a little bit of a crash. A couple of cars have come together. Wet weather racing, nothing more than that. And Ricky sort of turned himself and ended up. So nothing untoward. It's just, but it's really hurt Ricky's car. It must have done some suspension damage and front wheel damage. And Ricky's just had to do the smart thing, and rather than try and drive back to pits, go for a tow and get back into the race.
Oh, it's drying so quickly too. So with a little bit of sunshine starting to bear down across the circuit, how long are they going to be able to make these wet tyres last? In the meantime, that's what it looked like from Ricky. You can just see the car is just not straight. It's not steering straight whatsoever. Thought for a moment there he might have had the dry tyre on. It might have led to that, but that was not the case. Anyway, they have managed to settle themselves down on an in now. And for the meantime, that's a race starts. Greg Brooks is leading the way from Stu Shaw. And they've settled down on an in. I'm looking for probably who's gained the most. Owen Coleman's picked up 2 spots on that opening lap. Rook Hoyster has grabbed 2 for himself as well. 20th to 16th is Dean Hunt. He's going to grab another one as there's another Frog Leap car off in the chicane, as our leaders come through the second of the chicanes on the lap as well.
If you have a look back at the challenges too, it looks like Mark Foster's dropped back a bit. After the start, he's lost a few positions in terms of the challenges, and Norman and Hunt have made a bit of a gain out of that. So, so a little bit of a mix-up in the challenges level class. So we'll see how it goes. But I think Greg Brooks has got a little bit of luxury here, given that Shaw's his teammate in the same colour car there, and he might be able to hold off Jackson and Owen just a little bit longer, and you know, allow Brooksy just to get a little bit more time in front of them. I'm not sure that Stu Shaw really wants to do that. And you know, I called out Stu Shaw as one of the brilliant newcomers to the series, one of the guys that was at the front and had a little bit of a unlucky thing at the end of Magello and cost him a few spots. But called him out as someone to watch, and it's good to see him up the front there.
Well, he had an accident as well, also back at Aragon, which we were last time out, Pete, and had to drive back through the field, but he did a really, really good job of driving accurately and quite critically, as there was another driver that actually had to drive back through the field with him as well, and they ended up in a ton of grief. So sometimes it's about putting your head down, you know, being a little bit more conservative and making sure the passes are clean and under control. He did a great job of that. Now he's got the opportunity up at the front of the race. Sorry, it was Stu Shaw that was actually able to do that. My apologies, yep. Not Brooks, but either way, sometimes it's about getting your head down, putting yourself in the right position. Other times you lead the field. It's so much more dangerous, I think, leading the field. But then again, no spray.
Yeah, for now, no spray. You get a nice clear track. Now, we've heard the safety car being called, Scotty, so we'll see that the racing will just settle down and slow down for a little bit. I think there must have been an accident in the back of the field somewhere, so safety car's coming out, the field's going to settle down. This race will settle down, but what it's going to cause, mate, I'm watching this and there is more droplets on the way. This track's about to get wet again.
So you reckon, well, if you're at the rear end of the field, you're coming down for fuel anyway, so this is what's caused the safety car. And it is Stefan Mellis losing the car, and then he's just parked in a really bad spot, can't go anywhere. Multiple sets of cars into him, just trying to clear the track as best he possibly can. There's a Frog Leap Mercedes in the background that had to cut the chicane to get away from that one. No one dives to the lane this time by either.
No, way too early dive to the lane. And yeah, as you talked about earlier, when you're driving in the wet, you're not using the same level of fuel anyway. So your 40 to 43 minute fuel stint will sort of eke out to about 45 to 50. Yeah, maybe closer to the 45 mark. And it's way too early right now. And given that you want to stay on warm wets, you really don't want to change tyres anyway. The only thing you could do if you come to pits now is top up. Now, if I'm at the back of the field, if Fozzie's listened to the broadcast, he did say he was going to listen to me broadcasting. If I'm at the back of the field, I might drop in and top up the fuel, because that might pay advantages in the long run at the end of the thing, but only if you're at the back of the field, right? Not if you're at the front.
Well, Fozzie's not at the back of the field. There is the safety car. I hope they have got the wet tyres on that Toyota 86. But if it does have wet tyres available to it. Fair amount of spray coming up from the rear end of it. And it is going to pick up the field. So there is that. That has worked out quite nicely for a number of drivers. And
that's a wonderful thought. It's going to be, I mean, there's a whole heap of people that have driven safety car in iRacing and 11 running in the pits and they blow them up. I didn't even think to put wet tyres on the Toyota.
No, yeah, I mean, that's the problem is, if it had rolled out here on the dry tyres, it'd be going around in circles, Pete. It wouldn't be lapping the field, so.
All this fun and excitement that's come to iRacing because of the wet. That's all so cool.
Well, you're a race controller here, Pete, as well. So put your race controlling hat on. Does that now go in the book of policies and procedures? Is that you're constantly monitoring the weather conditions with the safety car to change what tyres it's got on?
Well, no, it needs to go in the safety car driver's brief, that's for sure. Because, I mean, could you imagine how it's embarrassing enough if you're a safety car driver and you drive the car off the track to start with? And like I said, you and I have both seen it in other leagues, not so much here. But could you imagine? Oh, hang on, I've just understeered the car off at the hairpin. Why'd you do that? I forgot to put wet tyres on. Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be understeer off at the hairpin. It would be the rear end's chasing the front, and it's also understeering at the same time. It's sort of multiple different things. It's really a lot. And have a look at them immediately start weaving and try and keep some temperature in these wet tires. That's absolutely critical.
No, and as you and I have learned in a wet weather race, it's actually the temperature that makes the difference. The wet weather tyres don't necessarily.
There's a dry line on the straight.
For now, I reckon we're about 3 minutes or 30 seconds from more wet weather hitting the track. But you and I both know that you've got to keep these tyres warmer than you do have to keep them fresher. So, the guys at the front there doing the weave are probably doing the best thing that they can to keep this going, because it looks like there is more wet weather coming in very, very shortly. But that dry line, it's probably a bit false for them whilst they're under safety car conditions.
Well, there's dry line, there's slick line out there, and have you ever seen that?
Go off?
No, there's somebody coming through to unlap themselves from the field. Guess who?
Oh, there's Ricky getting his lap back. There we go. Oh, look out, Jimmy. Ricky is on the way.
Oh, should we start the... Oh, there's the rain. The rain's come back. And it's bucketing down too. That is heavy. That is going to be heavy rain.
Yeah. There you go. And it's going to be a good, strong shower for probably about 10 or 15 minutes. We might get a little small dry patch again, but then the rain's coming back. It's going to be on and off for a little while, ladies and gents. I'm looking at the radar that we get on iRacing, and I'm telling you, I reckon it's
There's a few holes in it, Pete.
There is a few holes, but I think it's sort of 40 to 50 minutes of rain. Then we might end up with a nice dry session. I'm trying to look at the back end of the radar at the moment. I haven't seen a dry patch yet.
Oh, word. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? You kind of can't see the back end of the radar. There are some patches in it, so it's going to come and go, and that means that lap time is going to come and go as well. How tricky is it to judge that slickness of the track, how much water it's got on it, the adjusting conditions, because that seems for these drivers at the moment like it'd be dire. And the big thing that Ricky's got, I mean, Ricky and Stefan Mellis are both sort of driving around trying to tag themselves on the back end of the queue. They're doing that on relatively cold tires. So when we actually get back to green flag racing, they will actually have warmer tires than the bulk of people. But at the same time, they're also testing the conditions right now. So
yeah, they do. It's almost exploratory, and you can see that Brooks is coming out of the chicane, and he's oversteering the car, just coming out of the chicane, trying to follow the 86 safety car. So, you don't know how wet it is. And one of the hardest things about rain in a simulator is, whilst when you're driving a car for real, you can, with your eyes, you can see water and things like that. And iRacing did a wonderful job to try and produce those puddles and those effects. But our sensations are really only through our steering wheels, and maybe those have got haptics through some extra sensations there. So it's really, really difficult to judge, and you don't necessarily get the same sort of feel. And what do we do in the sim? We tend to push a little bit harder than we otherwise would in real life, because the damage doesn't cost us in terms of real dollars. So really, really difficult to be able to stay right at the limit. Really easy to go over it. But and right now, I reckon Greg Brooks is going to give us a demonstration. We'll see how we go.
They're nearly side by side as they come out of the final chicane, and Greg Brooks has got back to green flag racing. He's going to try and skip away clear at the front end of this field. Adam Burhop gets to the inside of, I think it was Owen Coleman. He just went breezing by. Yeah, it was. Pringle also had a go at that point in time on Stewie Shaw. So Coleman's gone back a spot. Coleman's immediately going to fire it back down the inside. Now he's on the rubber. Now he's slick. He's struggling to keep the car settled down, and gets away with that one for now, but Martinez is a little bit further different. And the problem for Martinez is it looks like he might have a dry set on this car. He is struggling, was quick in qualifying, but he's lost 3 spots already in the race. Have a look at the ponding on the edges of the track though, Pete. And look at the spray as it starts to come in.
Yeah, it's put on the track, and it's going to be the track for some time. This guy's going to be carefully, and I think it might be a game of survival in staying there. be a game of survival now until we get there, and then yeah, the guys will do what they can to stay on track. I don't necessarily, it's not so much racing and overtaking each other. It's just like, you know, you're going to get a good result just from staying on track, because others will make mistakes.
Something's just happened to Rain Campbell as well. I'm not 100% certain what it was, but it looks like he may have got forced off. The problem is, it was the chicane, actually, and there's cars around. There's massive cars around. They're at the front end of the field. Coleman's in that. Coleman is the car that's out in the gravel.
Keep calling, Scotty.
My word, it is all just unfolded like you would not believe. And Richard Mair has just jumped onto the radio to say, hey, there's a whole bunch going on. Somebody's going backwards. Owen Coleman is still going backwards. Have a look at this. It's all kicked off before they got to the hairpin. It was on the brakes. And after that, there was just nowhere you could really go. Everyone scatters. There'll be a ton of cars in the pit lane. Burhop is one of them. Magri was another. Coleman will be a third.
Oh, and that's dead set untidy for everybody involved, and yeah, that's the lead group that are having a really good time racing. So yeah, that's going to mix it up and give somebody else an opportunity to have a good result tonight, Scotty.
And the big thing here, Pete, as we went back green flag racing, look at the ponds on the side of the road. I reckon the conditions change. And they've just gone in there like it was a fraction dryer on the last lap. They haven't made that adjustment. Rukoistra is now facing in the wrong direction. He's dumping a whole bunch of spots as he drops outside the top 20. So what was a good qualifying performance and was a good, really strong race looking like it might have been, that rain came down and everything changed.
Yeah, well, Scotty, just think about it, right? This is the first lap where they've actually gone at full tilt whilst the track was wet, because to be honest, at the start, whilst the rain was coming down a little bit, it wasn't fully wet, and then the track kind of had that little bit of a dry line to it, and then the rain only kind of hit itself and come in just as that first safety car come off the track. So these are their real first wet laps in anger, and it's starting to catch a few guys out. And I'll tell you what, if they've spent most time focusing on dry setup speed, then what they're going to find is they've got a really, really slippery car in the wet, because you've got to soften the car up quite some to be able to handle wet conditions a lot better.
So drivers are currently in the pit lane. Nick Bottrell is one of them, and he's been out for a fair while. Rick Provenzali had an internet or hardware-related issue. He's now dropped from the server. Now we'll try and return, and we'll try and get back to racing. We'll keep an eye on a few of those stories as they sort of continue to develop. And it is currently all going the way of Greg Brooks, and he is going to catch up onto some lap traffic as it currently stands. And will be Rick Provenzali, who's just come back out ahead of him. Provenzali's going to be on super cold tyres now as well, and there'll be a bunch of drivers who are finally starting to get some heat in their tyres. Remember how I said Martinez was starting to fall through the field like a rock? Well, this has all worked out in his favour. Started third, dropped back to sixth. The three cars ahead of him took themselves out, back to third.
Absolutely, and Adam Jepson's made the most out of that, and same with Aaron Rackett. We haven't called Aaron out much at all tonight, but he's now sitting in P5. And like I said, this race is really a race for survival. It's not much about just being fastest at the start. You've got to get through this wet period, and it's going to be on and off. I think the run's still coming. We're going to see.
Oh, hang on. There's a car off at the second chicane, and I believe it was Hugo Sutherland. He's added to a bunch of running over the gravel. He's gotten out the other side. This will be Sutherland. We'll keep half an eye on as he comes over the crest. You can just see he's on the rubber. He's looking to try and get off that. The rear end just swaps. That is a great save, though. That could have ended in tears, and it didn't. Great save from Sutherland.
Yeah, absolutely. He managed that quite well. He came off the throttle, he sort of wiggled it through, and then just was able to drive through the sand trap and come back on. So, yeah, really good driving. Classic wet weather catch out, though. It's you know, the cars are in there, and you know, as I've found, it's really, really difficult. One of the things I've done well in iRacing is simulate the spray that comes up in the driver. And if you're following a car in the spray right up close, you really can't see. You might be able to see their rain light flashing, but you really can't see what the car's doing. And what you'll find is, you know, as you see on the broadcast or as you'll see, you know, different cars coming through, they'll offset each other just to be able to look and try and find their braking points and pick their apexes. And as you and I both know, Scotty, you don't necessarily need to hit the dry line apex to go fast now in a wet weather.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of drivers making some time at the moment. I tell you what, Richard Mair is looking really quick. He's making time on Racanello, so that one's going to come back towards him. Martinez just ran a 44.230. He was 1.5 seconds slower than Adam Jepson, who's in behind him. So Jepson is coming, and Rick Provenzale is going to have to sit on the side of the road and let a whole bunch of cars go here because he's laps off the lead at this point in time. His only hope is to get another couple safety cars to get back to the lead. They're all still running as it currently stands, though, so that is the benefit as it looks right now. But for the meantime, have a look at the gap. Look at the gap from Martinez to Shaw. It is 12 seconds nearly, 11 and a half seconds. He is massively going backwards. And there's been an update on a penalty that's just come through as well. 246 is Jackson Prignall. For an unsafe rejoin, we're receiving a 5-second post-race penalty. So that was in that incident that as they went through the hairpin on the restart. And Stuart Shaw has just had a big tank slapper as he's entered the final chicane. He's driven through the gravel and out the other side. And that margin that he was pushing on with is now starting to look a fair bit better.
Yeah, no, it looks like Greg Brooks and Stuart Shaw have got the measure of the field in the wet weather. It looks like they've done a really good run in wet weather with that big gap that they're being able to produce. And Josh Martin is just now holding up a gaggle of cars. He's like the cork in the bottle right now. And I reckon Adam Jepson is probably looking for every chance he can to get around him and get out of the spray, get a little bit of clear air and go a bit faster.
Request of an update from Rue. He is still out there. There was no repair required, so he's kicking on with the damage as it currently is. Front end of his car is crushed in as it currently speaks, but I think it's probably for the best that he's actually hanging on to that fast repair, because if this rain keeps up... The rain stopped again! No, it hasn't. No, it was just the camera angle I was currently looking at, so don't mind me. And indeed, that rain is coming in from the western part of the circuit, which will hit us from turn 1, turn 2. That end of the circuit is the southwestern corner. It's about but it also has the turn 3 is the westernmost section of the corner. So if the rain's going to hit the circuit, it will hit that area first. The southernmost tip, which is turn 1, turn 2. So turn 2 is the bottom end of the track. That will grab a small pocket of lack of rain as it currently stands. There's more chaos in the second chicane. In the first chicane. Braden O'Loughlin from the Frog Leap Juice Racing outfit's now been around. He's been to the dirt and he's been out the other side. The difficulty through that chicane, Pete, is that where the rubbers lay down, you can't dodge it. You've got to drive on it, and he's locked brakes on the way in and slammed the wall on the right-hand side. So,
no, as I say, you shouldn't really be driving on the normal racing line when the rain comes down, because the track is a lot slicker and that's where the rubber is down. And so you've got to come off the normal apexes and outside the normal racing line to pick up places where the bitumen is a little bit more spicy, a little bit more pointy, so you get that tiger. It's quite technical, but drivers have got to change their line. It's like a go-kart type line that they do. So if you just do your normal dry line racing in the wet, you're going to find yourself in trouble.
Yeah, well, we just saw Sean Bonici, who was just off the track. That was in the mid-20s, and that's all settled down. It's literally about keeping you've got to have some sort of pace whatsoever. Oh, the 525 machine, which is Adam Jepson, was just starting to catch onto the back end of Josh Martinez, going around in the chicane. He's going to lose a whole bunch of spots because there was a huge group of cars that was on their way through. He's now down outside, sort of 14th, I think he's just rejoined in. So he's had a huge moment on his way in there. And now there's more chaos going up ahead. Sutherland's losing spots. Mair's losing spots. There's a whole bunch of cars that are struggling at that second chicane. They'll all try and line themselves back up again. But at the moment, it's now a race for survival. We're targeting trying to get to that 40-minute window to get inside of things. I don't think there'll be a tyre change, Pete. I think if this rain keeps up, the risk of changing tyres is too much.
Well, that's the question, right? Who's really practicing the rain, right? Are they listening to us on the broadcast? Because you and I both know that you can go multiple splits on wet tyres and the warm tyre works. But a new wet tyre works, you just need to warm it up again. Yeah, and there's pros and cons to that, because as if the rain's going to go away, and I think it might in about another sort of 40 minutes or so, well and truly before the end of the race. What do you do? Do you stay on tyres and just refuel, or do you go, we're going to go a new set of wets and take that risk of warming them up again? So I'm not going to give the answer, and I don't think you are either, because everybody's going to make their own choice. But to be honest, if you've got a dry setup, you probably have to stay on the same tyres at least, because that's the one thing keeping you on. If you've got a wet setup or a hybrid, what I call a hybrid setup in the car, I reckon it might be worthwhile considering a change. But to be honest, I don't think they're doing the speeds, and there's enough water out there that the wets really aren't going to wear themselves out in one stint. So yeah, personally, they're on the side of keeping the tyres on for this first fuel stop.
Well, in the last lap, we've had 3 different cars in 4th spot. And I believe it might be Ben Jeffrey that's back there at the moment, because effectively we were watching, it wasn't Racanello, it was the guy that was just ahead of Racanello just previously, so that was the 525, was Jepson. Adam Jepson got to 4th place and was starting to make inroads on Josh Martinez, and then instantaneously fell off the road. Well, now it's going back in the other direction, because Racanello went, okay, there's the freebie, gets down to the hairpin, goes around. Somebody else has gone around in the background. That might have been Jimmy Middleton, actually. It was definitely a yellow Ferrari. But Isaac Norman, we're hearing it might have been. Yeah, it was Isaac Norman that's gone around. Oh, look at the cars as they all swarm all over each other on the wet road. On the run in, I think he's going to touch the curb on the inside, a little bit of rubber. Yep, and then the round just swings around away from him. So that was Isaac Norman. And now they'll settle down on an in. But it's really, there are so many mistakes being made right now, and everyone feels like they're running around on tiptoes.
That's right. And we've had a question of whether Ricky Provenzali has come back into the race. Ricky is still racing, currently 2 laps down, so he's going to need a safety car too to be able to get those laps back. But he's still in the race and pushing hard in the rain. So every now and then you might see Ricky pop up, but I think Jimmy Middleton's pretty comfortable right now that Ricky's got a long way to go before he's going to overtake him this round.
Well, in the meantime, best of luck. They've got to settle on in and see what they can possibly do. Drivers that are on the move, let's sort of talk about them. I'm telling you what, how's this for a race thus far? He's got a damaged car. Somebody has made contact to the rear bumper of Daniel Magri. 34th to 6th. He started in 34th spot, and the car that's just ahead of him, Dean Hunt, he's no slouch either. He's made a ton of spots up, albeit they're not in the same class. Magri. And then we've got more drama that's going on as well. Burhop has apparently just run wide and off the circuit. Picks up a little bit of paint, picks up a little bit of a puddle. That is a huge that's a massive crash. That's going to be all sorts of damage there. And that's nothing more than just driving out and getting into a little bit of a puddle and spinning the car. But it's almost ruined his race. You're going to come in, he's going to have to cop quite a bit of time repairs to use a fast repair there. So big drop down there. But you're right about Dan Magri. I was talking to you just before we come on here, and we were watching Dan Magri in qualifying, Scotty, and I said it surprised me that he hadn't set a time. So for him to see him now, he's 20 positions. That's just a massive effort, and that is a massive case of survival wins in the wet. Righto, so they're going to try and settle down in as it currently stands. Magri is making ground on those guys. I tell you what, he's got the rear end of a Porsche. JP is sitting behind us in the broadcasting chair as it currently stands. We'll be enjoying watching him drive, because it is Porsche doing Porsche things. Oh, somebody else has come around as well. So it'll be another position. It's Sean Benici. But Benici was actually a lapped car at that point in time. I think he'd actually just been through the pit lane. Somebody else is around just in behind him. It's actually Ben Woods. Just barely got out of the way. My word. There's just chaos everywhere as these guys are trying to keep the car on the track. There is so much rain out there. The ponding, Pete, is massive.
Probably spend more time setting up a dry setup than not soften the car up enough for the wet, and it's catching them out, mate. And they're probably just getting a little bit more comfortable and going, oh, I can push a little bit faster. I can try and just eke a little half a second out this lap. And what they're doing is they've already found the threshold, and that's just costing them. So survival. This race is not really on yet. It's actually a matter of just stay in there and keep circulating, and let's see when you get some nice clear track, and then you can really race and get on with it. Otherwise, oh mate, I cannot call you how this is going to end. Brooks and Stu Shaw out at the front, they are just giving us a rain masterclass, aren't they? They are 17 seconds ahead of third place Josh Martinez, and just cruising along right now without any pressure, and 2 teammates working together. I think it's a wonderful display of driving from both of those guys.
Jimmy Middleton, I don't know if you've just seen the back end of his car. You might see a shot of it. It goes past here. I'm only happy when it rains, it says, just underneath that rear wing, which you can't see because it has been raining. And the spray is too strong for us to actually be able to see that. So, great call, Jimmy Middleton. He's just been through the pit lane. I'm not 100% sure why either, because we're outside the fuel window.
Yeah, we are outside the fuel window to go long, but if he's had a bit of a spin and turned around, it might be just a case of get in and get a little bit of repairs done and go. That we didn't see. Might have been able to have a bump from another car or something like that. So, yeah.
Well, in the meantime, yeah, we're just in this holding phase, I think, at the moment, because we're still shy of the pit stop, and there was just another call made through to race control. So I think at the moment everyone's just sort of tiptoeing around, just doing absolutely the best that they can. It's summing up the conditions with very little visibility is near impossible. Let's talk about the difference with in terms of where our challenger class drivers are, because Dean Hunt currently leads the way in that class. Remember, there is two. We have the main sort of series, the top series drivers, and then a secondary class, nearly a Pro and a Pro-Am championship. And Greg Brooks leads the way from Stuart Shaw, from Joshua Martinez. So in that case of things, it is 1, 2, 3 on the road. But it's Dean Hunt. The next car is Brock Caddaye, who's managed to overtake a bunch of cars. And Isaac Norman, even after that spin, sits in third in Challenger. So he's doing a reasonable job. Matt Kidd is the next car on track behind him, and Rain Campbell as well. So,
yeah, and Brock Caddaye and Isaac Norman, they're all in that championship there. They're actually top of the championship for the Challengers. So they'll be looking for, to solidify a really good result here tonight. Not necessarily win, but just to solidify a good result. Oh, there we go. Another car. That's Adrian Grech coming off. Right into it. Looks like he's lost his front spoiler. He's going to have a visit to repairs, and he'll follow the average racing man of Jimmy Middleton. We've got to call out and say, where is Coleman in? Let's call it.
Sorry, Pete, your mic's just completely and only cutting out. We're barely getting anything out of you as it currently stands. In the meantime, for those of you who were asking, from Owen Coleman, is sitting back in 21st. By the way, lap times have started to improve as the rain has actually stopped out on track yet again. So lap times are definitely improving. It'll be a very, very long time before we'll switch over to that dry. We need to see nearly a completely dry track. So in the meantime, still settle down. And Coleman was, like I said, back in 21st, so he did have to make a stop for the damage repair all the way back on laps 5 and 6. It was actually 6, I think, just immediately after that restart, where he did come down the lane. Has not been back to the lane thus far. Fastest lap on lap 13 was a 39.215, so the times are going to be a little bit all over the shop as it currently stands, but Pringle's the car on the road immediately ahead of him, was the second fastest in that last lap, and he's pulling massive amounts of time on a bunch of cars in and around him. Sean Bonici's going to come to the pit lane at this point in time. I don't necessarily know what that one will be from Sean, because he won't have a penalty. And Greg Brooks is still leading the way. Just had a huge slide, by the way. So I think the fastest car that last time by might have actually been Coleman. It was definitely someone deeper in the pack, just not 100% sure of who.
1:35.2. I am just going to jump in. Hopefully, I will get Pete's mic sorted out.
You know what? I think
he's back.
I tell you what, JP. I think what's actually going on is Rain's killing his computer. It's killing mine at the moment. I can tell you that much.
No, I've had a little bit of a play. Hopefully, I'm back now and you can get it all good. But yeah, we'll see how we go. But it's certainly not the rain, just some settings. But I do have, as you know, Scotty, I do have a new PC, and I spent a shitload of money on it. And it's just it's fine tuning all the settings to make sure that everything's right. It's
We're
up
actually
to
having-
down here, mate, in Australia, JP. You'll be right. Well, shout out to JP. He's not done broadcasting tonight. He's had a whole lot of trouble with some family issues and some young kids in hospital. So shout out to you, mate. Hope everything's well with your family. Thanks for jumping on, doing the producing for us, and letting Scotty and us take the load. And all the best to you and your family over there.
It's been one of those weeks, I think, where things have just not necessarily cropped up the way they're supposed to. Pete's not the only one with a new computer. There's new computers over here as well on my end. Differently to Pete, his is working as it currently stands. That's the differences right there. So keeping an eye on things. Ben Jeffrey, by the way, now Josh Martinez's run in that Audi is continuing to worsen to the point now whereby he's now got Ben Jeffrey crawling all over him for third spot, and I think Magri's actually gone with a lot of them. Yeah, he has. So Dan Magri now all the way up to fifth, has had to drive past and through a lot of cars, and around goes a lap car that was actually just in front of them. So at this stage, Josh Martinez is about to get harassed and harangued by two cars, but Zolder is incredibly narrow normally, and that optimal line, Pete, changes significantly when you add water.
Well, like I said earlier, you've got to be off the normal racing line a little bit to get really good corner speed. So at the hairpin and some of the chicanes, you might not necessarily just be jumping the chicane. And also, you want to stay off paint, right? You know, paint, water and bitumen just do not mix. When you introduce rubber and you know, somebody on an accelerator pedal, that's a combination that is yeah, I guess it's mutually exclusive, and you really want to stay away from. So, but I'm loving seeing Greg Brooks and Stu Shaw go out. They are just, you know, they continue to give us mascara. Now 19 seconds between them and Josh Martinez. I think Josh is under pressure, and Ben Jeffrey and Dan Magri are giving him a really bit of a wind-up. Dean Hunt, the first of the challengers in P6 right now, up 14 positions from the start, having a wonderful run. And Richard Mair, I haven't called out Richard a lot tonight, but he's just sort of settling there in a quiet achiever, run along at 7th, doing the old survival game. There we go. We just see a car off to the left there in the chicane, Scotty?
I think we did, actually. I'm not 100% sure of who that actually was. Robert Edwards, though, will go around. It might have been Stefan Mellis, actually. So Robert Edwards is just... was Braden O'Loughlin off now as well? There's just a ton of cars just about everywhere. Braden O'Loughlin's going to come off in the chicane.
Yeah, so, he's just touched the grass, mate, and he's touched the grass under braking. He's just lost a little bit. He's done well to hold that up, pull it up, and not hit the chicane. So back on the track and away he gets going. Not too much, a little bit of time lost, and maybe a little bit of pride, and away we go. Oh, say we get braking, missed the curb, off the fence, in the sand. Oh, and away we go. Blue Ball Racing. Yeah, good on you. Here you go.
Not beach. That's the key factor. That's the thing that changes. By the way, is it just me or is that rain stopped? I think we can see sun on the track at this point in time.
Yeah, we're back in a little patch, right? It's there's more to come. We're back in a little patch. We might get about sort of 5 minutes. Might see that dry line emerging again, Scotty, and see what happens. See if it tempts some drivers in to come and change on slicks. But I can tell you, I'm looking at the radar, and there's more coming.
No, there is no way. I'm not that. I might be silly, Pete. I might even be called stupid by a number of people, but I'm not that stupid. There's another car around in turn 1, by the way. Isaac Norman's just gone by. It was Adam Jepson who's just had his second spin of the night. That was heavy contact with the inside barrier. This is what it looks like from on board of Joshua Martinez as he runs the chicane. Look, you're looking for the dry line. There is very little dry line, and this is Jepson. And I get the feeling does he touch the paint? He does. He brakes on the paint.
Little bit of paint there. As I was talking about earlier, just touch a little bit of paint and away she goes. Paint, wet weather, and accelerators, don't mix.
Oh, there's so much going on. I think it's time to head back up front. Magri's just gotten through. Martinez has just lost 2 spots. And it's on this lap. And I get the feeling it was in the early sectors. No, he had a big moment coming through the chicane. The first chicane. So he has managed to clear that and get out the other side. And as it currently stands, Stuart Shaw lays down a reasonably good lap. That lap time is improving for him as it just popped out. Magri will be the next car on the road now. And Dan Magri's had pace to come through the field this far. The next question for him will be, okay, he's now made the overtake. Can he start to make some ground? 40.080, so a touch slower than the race leading pair. In fact, he was actually a second slower than Stuart Shaw on that last lap, but there was an overtake made for position, and now he's got some cleaner. There's a lot of damage on that right sim racing car as it sits in third spot though, Pete, and downforce in the wet. I get the feeling that's pretty key.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, no, we're coming up to that magic 40-minute mark, which in a dry race would be pit stops. Looking at the leaderboard, it's the top 16 that haven't had pitted yet. Everybody else has had a pit stop, and probably because they've had a little bit of trouble, a little bit of spin. But the top 16 cars are still racing, you know, as fairly is probably not the right word, but still out there racing and on their first stint. And I'm saying I think we've probably got 2 or 3 more laps and we're going to start to see them come in. But, you know, there's no sign that this is going to be a dry race anytime soon, Scotty. And, you know, these pit stops, we're really going to see whether anybody makes any mistakes in terms of changing tyres and things like that. So look out for that in about the next 2 or 3 laps. But you know, Greg Brooks and Stuart Stewart, they've pulled out another 4 seconds or 5 seconds since we last talked. You know, 21 seconds. Although Dan Magri is pulling some time back on Stu Shaw, so maybe Stu Shaw has just had a little bit of an oversteer moment or something, slowed down a little bit, but it's not like he's going to be right up in the back of him anytime soon. He's just sort of caught up 2.5 seconds on that lap. So Dan Magri's made his way, mate. 31 positions gained from the start of the race. He's now running P3.
Consider this though. If he'd have started towards the front, if he'd managed to get that qualifying lap in, he was two and a bit seconds off in terms of qualifying trim, which was running the dry, and I think that's what's maybe caught a few people out. But either way, if he was up there in the mix for qualifying, you never know. Josh Martinez, in the meantime, has had a phenomenal qualifying performance. And now his next problem is he's starting to slip. Ben Jeffries is starting to catch up on towards the back of him as well. That's the car we're keeping half an eye on as it currently stands. So we Martinez from Ben Jeffrey, and then we're looking 13 seconds further back from there to Ben Woods is the next car on the road.
Yeah.
In the meantime,
we've got a replay here. We've got it looks like Jimmy Middleton's found himself on the video again. Oh, Jimmy, a little bit oversteer. Oh no, that's going to hurt the car. Looks like he's lost the front bumper. Or was that Netco to jump back on, Scotty? He might have been a little bit lucky there.
I might have to start making up that surely somebody's got a sad song with Jimmy written in it somewhere throughout all of entertainment history thus far.
I will find it.
Either that, or he'd be singing something to do with rain. Make the rain go away, come again another day. Well, his rear bumper doesn't say that.
He might say that next round.
Jimmy, the phrase Jimmy Middleton and a drink might mix, but I don't think this is the drink he was considering. Anyway,
Jimmy, give me a spray.
I like that. That's a good one.
Go and race another day.
I was trying too hard, and you just come out and knocked it out of the park. Nice and relaxed like Pete, enjoyed that.
That just come out. Yeah, look, wonderful racing again. Who we got? Look at our eyes on Ben Jeffrey. I'll tell you what, I'm just flicking through, Scotty, the Game of Gear Direct GT3 Elite standings, and the thing that stands out to me, Owen Coleman, our current leader, still running there down in 18th. He's now got to sort of consolidate this round and try and make as many positions as he can after that little off.
37 on his last lap, by the way.
Main competition for the championship. They're all up there in the top sort of 4 or 5. So so far, this is going to hurt Owen Coleman. And I want to shout out Nick Wood. We would have seen Nick Wood, and Nick played a massive part in Premier Endurance League Championship for quite some time. Nick's had to pull out because of some work commitments and moving interstate, and now the change to daylight savings times has made it impossible for him to get on racing. So Nick, sorry to see you can't be involved in the racing anymore. You're a wonderful competitor. And I know we get to see Nick on the supercars in Vets on Thursday nights, but yeah, missing Nick Wood tonight, I think.
Update requested on Rue Koistra, who's now in 26th spot, although he's already made his first stop of the night. and has not taken on the fresh car, so he's continuing on with the Porsche. That track is getting drier and drier and drier, Pete, and the lap times are starting to reflect that a little bit as well. Greg Brooks 38.868, which was his fastest lap of the race by about 7 or 8 tenths of a second, so pretty significant improvement. The problem was I saw Owen Coleman's most recent lap, and it was I thought he did run a 37.7, but there was an off track somewhere within that lap, so it did not count for timing and scoring purposes as the fastest lap of the race. So I think that's the fastest time I've ever seen. He's just taken over another spot too, so there's more spots coming his way. He's now got about 8 seconds down the road before he runs into Adam Burhoff, will be the next car for him. But pit stop not... remember, he did stop, so he will still have 2 more stops left to make, and the rain's just started tinkering back down again, so that grip level is going to change. 37.4 this time through, and I think that's going to be fastest lap of the race for Owen Coleman. Indeed it was.
Yeah, and I think the advantage Owen's got right now, even though he's in 18th with that 8-second gap that he'll pull in, is he's not in the spray of another car. So he's got the advantage of a nice wide open windscreen. He can actually see the track. He can see where he wants to put the car, and he can drive. And that'll help him catch up to the others until he gets back up into the spray, and then he'll have a little bit of trouble in terms of, okay, where do I put the car? Where's my braking markers and all that sort of stuff. So I think Mike Hayward has shown signs. Look, he pitted on lap 6. And given the extension of the pit stops and the little bit slower times that we're now seeing, we still haven't seen, or I've seen the first of the leaders. So Greg Brooks has just come into the pits, the first of the leaders. So that's at the 44-minute mark. So we've extended a couple of minutes, probably only 1 or 2 laps from what we normally would. And Greg Brooks has got in. Dan Magri's come in as well. So we're now starting to see the leaders come in. The first cycle of pit stops is underway.
Ben Woods.
And I don't think it's going to be enough to sort of prevent someone like Rue Koestra and Owen from doing a third stop, given they stopped so early. But we'll see how they go in the end.
I mean, again, if I was at the back end of this field, I would have just taken that splash. Why not? We're already starting to see a few retirements, by the way. I'm pretty sure Sean Bonici is now done. His car is sitting in the lane, but he's been there for an extended period of time. Nick Bottrell is back out, but he has a very, very heavily damaged Audi as it currently stands. Provenzali's the next one. He's at 2 laps in. So in terms of things, just to give you guys at home watching along a little bit of an update in terms of the timing and scoring, Chris Pellet is 11 laps down and no longer in the server, so I believe he may be done. Sean Bonici is 9 laps down. Bottrell is also 9 laps down. In terms of things as well. So we got a battle going on at the current point in time. Up towards the top end, it's out. I believe it was actually Rain Campbell. It was 14th as it was on the road. Still looking to try and assault on towards Matthew Kidd as the car just ahead of him on the road. Mark Foster's just in behind him as well. So 3-way fight in terms of the Challenger class. And this is actually for third on the road. 4th on the road, Challenger class, as I count them up and down the standings. So we got there at the end.
Fozzie's 5th on the road in terms of, and look, to be honest, it would be unfair if I didn't shout out to Fozzie and say, yes, mate, I did have a lime thick shake while I was at Harvey Bay, thinking of you on the last race day. But I am a little bit disappointed you've gone to the lot, all the black on the car as well. So I'm almost tempted to call him like a choc mid car now rather than the lime thick shake. But we can play with that over time, Scotty.
I am not a Mint fan, Pete. Not a Mint fan whatsoever. As talking about Fozzie, he's actually going to take that opportunity to dive out of the spray and dive into the lane, and that might help him. Wonder how many wet pit lane entries these guys have done, because it will change things as Curb's on the way in. In terms of things, Adam Jepson sits now 14th after his stop. And there's a bunch of cars now out of that lead pack that have now come in. Dean Hunt's one of them. Richard Mair continuing on. Martinez, remember, is already done. No, Martinez did not come in for his stop. In terms of wet versus dry lap times, just had a question about those. Well, your qualifying times were in the dry. They were down in the 23. Ooh. I've just seen a comment come in from Sean Bonici, which we'll discuss here in a few moments. Qualifying times, fastest time in qualifying, 23.715. So there was 6 cars in the 23s. The bulk of the field was in the 1 minute 24s in terms of things. We're currently about 15 to 20 seconds behind that, and some a little bit further than that, actually.
Yeah, and what do you reckon the crossover time's going to be, Scotty? So we're talking sort
It's
of...
got to be in the 28s.
20s, yeah. I think it has
High
to be
20s.
high 20s. I think you want to be seeing 29s probably, and then you'd really be thinking about the crossover. And you want to know that the track has a genuine dry line on it that you can see and no puddles. Oh, geez, there's some awesome racing going on, isn't it? The time for survival is over. These guys are now like, okay, no, bugger this. This ain't no more survival. This is now racing, and it's interesting. So we got another 3 from the top of coming in the pits. I've still got 5 cars that are out there that haven't pitted yet since the start
There's
of the
2
race.
of them.
That's interesting.
Rain Campbell, and I believe that's going to be Kid that's just come out from just ahead of him.
Yep, and
Greg Brooks.
And our leader, Greg Brooks, has come in lap 24, so that's an indication. Greg being out the front, he's probably the highest fuel
Don't do
burner
it to me,
right now.
Richard Mair. Don't do it to me again, Richard Mair. Richard Mair has kicked on, and to be the man that burns the least fuel 2 races in a row, he won the race last time out at Aragon, and it was because he failed to use the right foot. What does that mean from a fuel perspective? Well, he saved a bunch. He's basically the long way about going to say that. But the good news is that means he's a very, very smooth driver, and it's kept him on the island, and right now leads the motor race. But that comes with a big old but, and it's Isaac Norman and Hugo Sutherland that have also continued on in terms of things.
And 0 stops. So, Scotty, we're talking about we've got a 48-minute start. That's including the formation lap for this race so far. So that's a long stint. So these guys, all 3 of them, Richard, Isaac, and Hugo Sutherland, they've done a massive job to be able to extend this far. I do expect them in the pits. I can't see them doing more than sort of 1 lap further than everybody else. That would be just a massive job, unless they've found a way. I bet you can't clutch these things anymore, can you? You can't hide it. No, here they come into the pits.
Just
into the
lift and
pits.
coast.
Yeah.
Yep, that's all you can do is lift and coast. I believe that's it wasn't Southern that followed him, it was Isaac Norman. So the 3 cars that were yet to stop. The key factor for me, though, Pete, is that we've got an hour and 10 minutes left. If these guys had actually come to the pit lane under that safety car and topped up, I reckon they'd get home. But they would have had to go on a fair bit longer into the race, and there wasn't actually all that many that did manage to continue on. Updates coming to us from race control, though. We've actually seen quite a few more penalties. So we only called out the first one. There's actually a second penalty that's been applied, by the way, that I missed earlier on. Car number 13, which is going to be Jimmy Middleton, did get a 10-second penalty for contact on lap 1. We got the penalty for 246. There's also been a penalty to car number 69, which is Carl Hudson, for 5 seconds contact on lap 11. 13, which is Jimmy Middleton's, received another 5-second penalty for contact with car 69 this time. 747 is Matthew Kidd, has a 10-second penalty for contact with car 63. And 96, which is Jesse McMenamin, has a penalty, as does the 230 car of Greg Brooks, has a 10-second penalty. So that's a 10-second penalty for Greg Brooks. So all of a sudden that changes the race, and the 93 car is the last penalty. Is Stuart Shaw. He only has 5 seconds, so theoretically that kind of reverts Greg Brooks' penalty back to effectively a 5-second penalty, and Stuart Shaw sort of gets nothing. If they give it a safety car, that will change things quite significantly. But Greg Brooks has currently got more than 5 seconds of a lead over Stuart Shaw, so that's very important to keep in the back of your mind, though, here now, Pete.
Yeah, he does. But Owen Coleman and Aaron Burhoff both pitted on lap 6, so those both pitted on that first safety car. And I'm going to call it that I think they've all got 1 stop left to go now. Looking at this lap 6, I think Owen and Adam might be able to extend this for. Actually, no, I might be going too far. I don't think they'll get 56 minutes out of a stint. So, it's really interesting. Another safety car will really, really mix it up and change it. I think.
By the way, change for the race lead is as Owen Coleman goes sailing past Greg Brooks. So that has changed things up at the front end of town. Albeit Owen Coleman is light on fuel. I reckon Greg Brooks might have taken tyres. So this will show us exactly what's happened and the change for the lead. And as Greg Brooks just turns in, there's just no grip. He's just got no bite. Whereas Coleman's got bite. He's got a ton of grip right there.
That is the difference between warm tyres and cold tyres for sure. I reckon Brooksy has taken tyres. I think you're right there, Scotty. I'm happy to make that call. And you can see now the advantage of warm tyres that Owen has on. Now the question is when Owen comes into the pits, because he's got to be due within probably another 5 laps or so. When he comes into the pits, does he change tyres or does he keep these ones on? I know what you and I would do.
I'm on the fence about whether or not Greg Brook took slicks, which would have been suicide. But I can't. I've just done a quick look around the car, and I can't confidently say I can see a groove cut into those tyres.
No,
So-
all my data is saying everyone is still on wet tyres. There's not a chance somebody will be on slicks there right now.
Particularly not the race leader who's got absolute control of the field. He would take the least risk out of everything. He's back into the lane. You know what? I think he did take slicks, Pete. He's into the Greg Brooks just come back into the lane. He's got a penalty. He's got a penalty. He's got a penalty. And I think that might be a speeding or an unsafe pit exit penalty.
Yeah. But you can get here because as you come out of the pits, it's really easy to miss a line.
Anyway, we're keeping half an eye on the battle that's currently on our screen as Richard Mair is the leader in this one. And to his outside at the moment is going to go Norman. He's going to try and pick up the traction. He does get reasonably good drive off, but Richard Mair just had the car pointed a touch straighter, and that was the key. And Greg Brooks is going to be sat in his pit lane, by the way, for about 40 seconds. He's going to be there a very long time. And that will be effectively race lead thrown away. Anyway,
no, I'm just doing a bit of research. There's a question about 230, so that's Greg Brooks, and what did they get their penalty for? I'm just doing a little bit of research to make sure that I can go and find it and see what it is. I think I've found it. I'm just going to make sure, and I'll come back to you very shortly.
And I'm just looking up and down the field. I'm trying to find out what's going on with Greg Brooks and what's happened to him. Definitely wasn't speeding on the way out of pit lane. I'll tell you that much. Might have been speeding on the way in.
Alrighty, so while you look at that, Scotty, just to answer the question about Greg Brooks and his 10-second penalty, it looks like he's been pinged for contact with car 93, so that is Stu Shaw on turn number 2, so just on the exit of the pits. It looks like that he's got a penalty for squeezing car number 93 a bit close up to the curb, not giving racing room, and that caused car 93 to spin out. So that's how I read it from what I'm seeing. But, obviously, that's without race control input. So looks like that's where the 10-second penalty come from.
Either way, Stuart Shaw now has the lead of the race. And this is what we're looking at as it currently looks. Yeah, that would be it right there.
Yeah, that's it right there. Yep.
So, anyway, that's how it's been seen, how it's been investigated, how it's been looked into. As it currently stands, Dean Hunt is in 5th spot as it currently stands. Remember, the leader of those Challenger drivers. This is the pack that's hunting him down. Martinez sort of sits in the middle. And he's currently 12.5 seconds up the road from Norman. Norman will be chasing as it currently stands. But
Hunt's doing a wonderful job as the lone challenger up in the almost the top 10. But Brock Caddaye is just hanging on there in P10, and then the rest of the challengers, Fozzie, Campbell, and Matty Kidd there in 13, 14, 15.
oh, Norman, big slide on the way into the chicane as well. We just caught, and Richard Mair's going to catch up a little bit. But Mair's sort of holding back a little bit. He's not too fussed about chasing that down. Mind you, Richard Mair is in the elite class, as is Hugo Sutherland in behind him. So they're fighting each other for it. Isaac Norman's in Challenger, so is not directly competing with them on the road, but is sort of out there and competing at the same time. Hugo Sutherland's struggling in the wet conditions, by the way. James Solani. This will be a moment coming through the final chicane. As a huge moment coming through the final chicane. Nearly saved it, nearly got out the other side, and then the rear end of that Audi comes around.
Oh, he stayed off the fence by the looks of it. He saved his rear wing, which is a good thing for a GT3 car. You don't want to lose the rear wing on these things, mate, driving around in the wet, I'll tell you what.
And sadly, it is actually an important point to note as well, Pete, that in the last couple of weeks, the last ever Audi R8 rolled off of the production lines. So these things will become rarer and rarer in the real world as years go on now, but there will be no more Audi R8s rolling off the production line in their current trim. As it currently stands, we've seen the last of an era, and they will maintain GT3 racing capacity at least for the near future. There'll still be parts kicking around from them. Oh, Jesse McMenamin's had an issue. There was just a request from Toe for the car 96. So we're going to have to try and pick up what's happened to car 96. And there's a fair bit going on, and he's not in a great spot, and that has triggered a safety car. So we're going to have a fair while to unravel this one. And Pete, with where we are in the session, we are just about bang on the halfway mark. We're a touch beyond it. We are on the fringes of making it home if the race pace stays the way it is.
If you're listening, drivers must pit, fill up. Dead set. This is a every crew chief box, fill up. Don't change tyres. Just come in, fill your cars up, and then we'll deal with the rest of it as we go. You don't pit now, all you're doing is costing yourself time at the end of the race. Dead set. No way. Mark Foster, I hope you're listening to the broadcast tonight. You must pit.
Well, that's the advice. Oh no, we're just hearing an update. So I did want to get back to, remember I had that point from Sean Bonici earlier on? Yeah, I'm on pit lane and out of the race. I've had a wheel snap mess up my finger. Oof, not a happy place to be. Hope everything's all okay for Sean Bonici. Rick Provenzali's had a PC failure and it's done. Rain seems like it got out of the server and down into Ricky's PC by the sounds of things as well. So either way, Dean Hunt, as it currently stands, sits in P3. There's been a few cars pit out of that one. And tumbling down the order. So Coleman did pit just recently. I get the feeling it might have been on that last lap, actually. So that safety car's nearly come at the perfect time for him. He's in 10th spot.
Yeah, nearly. But I still, my view is you've got to make sure you've got a maximum fuel tank for this race to go to go to the end. Because any time you now spend in pits, you get back under the safety car, you might lose a little bit of track position. As we've seen, it's track position is difficult to gain sometimes, on some of these tracks, but in such a slippery and difficult driving condition, you can gain track position. Particularly, there's a couple of really good overtaking spots here at Zolder, and personally, it's fill up and then deal with the end of the race as you deal with the end of the race. Because if you fill up now and potentially we've got one or two more safety cars, you actually might get to the end of the race, right? And you don't want to be that person that is the only person coming in for 10 or 20 seconds worth of fuel fill at the end of the race, because you'll just drop so many positions.
Anyway, well, now we're going to settle down on in. What is the second half of this race going to look like? Brock Caddaye in the Challenger class is in a very messed up looking Porsche. And this could be an opportunity to get a bunch of damage repairs on that car. The rain has started coming down once again, so we'll not be coming off of those wet tyres by any stretch of the imagination. The next thing to sort of keep in the back of your mind is, remember those drivers we were talking about with penalties before? There's a bunch of them. Well, the worst possible thing for a driver with a penalty is a safety car, because all of a sudden 5 seconds covers a bunch of cars. Greg Brooks has just barely stayed on the lead lap, by the way, guys, down in 19th after sitting on the pole, after leading the bulk of the race and getting himself... I had a look at the pit lane. I couldn't see what the penalty was for. It may have been a slowdown that didn't clear in time, is my only other assumption. But either way, he's still on the lead lap. He now sits in 19th. He's the last car on the lead lap. There's going to be a whole host of lapped cars that will probably be letting by this time by. And the race sort of stabilizes itself in this second half now. Stuart Shaw leads the way. In behind him is Aaron Racanello, is the first of the lap cars down. Then we'll have Ben Jeffrey, who sits in second. James Salhani is there after that moment we saw him have just recently. He's also another lapped car. Martinez is then next in the queue. But all these lapped cars that we're talking about will be let go probably sometime in this lap. And the rain is at its heaviest right now. And it's going to stay with us for a reasonable period of time. And there will be a pocket of dry weather coming towards the back end of this race.
Yeah, but it's only a small pocket again. I think we're going to see a wet track nearly all the way through to the end of this race now, what I'm seeing on the radar, Scotty. I haven't seen, as we've seen in a lot of other rain-affected races, it's sort of been short bursts. This is just like showers on and off all day for this race. So we are in for a long, wet one. And, I think the drivers just have to keep their wits about them, because Yeah, they might be able to pull a 138.5 at one lap, but they get a little bit of water on the track. The next lap they can only pull a 142, and that can be mentally challenging. But it's also, you just don't know what you got every lap. So it's nice, smooth driving, slow and steady. Wins these kind of races. Stewie Shaw's given us a little bit of a masterclass there, and unfortunately for Greg Brooks, he was well and truly out in the front of Stewie Shaw earlier, but has come into a little bit of trouble through that pit stop cycle.
Well, let's update you on both of the classes as they currently stand. Keep your eyes on that timing tower on the left-hand side, ladies and gents. We'll sort of talk you through it. Anyone, the red icon that Stuart Shaw's got next to his name basically just means that's the car that we're following along with at this current period of time. He's your race leader. Any of the other drivers that are in the green, they are in your elite standings, and the drivers with the yellow on next to their number are your challenger classes. So that basically says to us, Isaac Norman leads the way from our challenger drivers. Dean Hunt did pit. So he has now dropped down significantly in the... Something's happened to Dean Hunt, actually. Something more has happened to Dean Hunt. He's down in 16th spot. So I think what's happened to Dean Hunt is he's missed the window to pit that first time by. Carl Hudson's just had a huge moment trying to go for it to get his lap back. And Greg Brooks has had an issue under safety car, we're hearing.
Was this a big checkup?
Yeah. Coming to the chicane, of course it will be. No, it's the car behind him.
Oh, no, car behind him.
Oh, he dodges that. Oh. He's got away from... No, they've just stopped. They've actually just stopped on circuit.
Yeah,
something's further just happened.
So it looks like as the safety car's coming up to the chicanes, it's sort of slowing the field up, and particularly while they got them slowed up to allow the lap cars to go. But what it's creating, it's just creating, the driver's got a little bit of lead footy at the back there, and it's creating a little bit of a concertina up and back. The safety car's doing a steady speed, and this is one of the things we always see really challenging with manual safety car in iRacing is, we try and keep cars within about 3 to 4 car lengths side by side. And it's really challenging to drive and just do that quite slowly in the sim, because these cars do pick up speed quite quickly. But yeah, when you come up to the chicanes and those sorts of points on the track that are quite slow, the safety car does have to slow down a little bit. I mean, it's a Toyota GR86. It's a race car in itself, but it's not a super fast race car, and it's wet conditions. So. It's just a little bit of caution for everybody, and it causes some of that drama. But sounds like the safety car's coming in very shortly, Scotty, which means they're going to have to bunch the field back up, and we can get back to some green flag racing in the wet.
Green flag racing, or green flag, what's the term, aquaplaning, I think maybe on the cards in the near future. Pace has come down, tyres are cooled off. Anything can and will happen as it currently stands. Bunch of drivers in pit lane, by the way, looking to get some damage repaired off. Greg Brooks not the least among those. So as it currently stands, we will get the field back under racing. And in the meantime, where do all of your contenders stand? Well, the way to think about it, Stuart Shaw currently has a 5-second penalty. So as it stands at the last time by the flag, that would put him down to 6th spot in and amongst all the safety car procedures. Ben Jeffrey sits second. No penalties for Ben Jeffrey thus far. Josh Martinez also doing quite well, but remember, he's been struggling for pace in the wet conditions. Wonder whether or not that dry setup remained in from qualifying. Isaac Norman leads the way in your challenger class. Richard Mair is then in 4th spot in terms of your elite standings. Hugo Sutherland, Ben Woods is in the pit lane getting a bunch of repairs done as it currently stands. So hopefully he will get back out and get back underway. So this field's going to be really swapped up. I've got Owen Coleman now sitting inside of our top 10 and 9th. Remember, he was outside the 30s after that incident on lap number 6 and had to come to the lane.
Yeah, but Owen Coleman was also pitted on lap 31, so he's one of the last cars to pit, right? He's done what I said, right? He's come in, he's topped up his fuel. Whether he's changed his tyres or not, I don't think he probably hasn't if he's sort of kept his brain on. But he's certainly topped up, and Owen Coleman might be the one to really look out for. Now, he might be in the advantageous position here of having the most fuel and being able to get to the end of the race, mate.
Well, anyway, we now start to settle ourselves back on in. Stuart Shaw's got control of the field, and now he's got a responsibility. Can he clear this field out? Can he put 5 seconds on them? Ben Jeffrey's got his best opportunity to go with these guys as it currently stands. What can Josh Martinez do to hang on to places? He hung on to them earlier, but that was due to drama with all the drivers around him. Back to green flag racing. Stu Shaw on the run down to turn number 1. And will lead us down in there. Will be the first of the drivers. No spray. Ben Woods, by the way, has not made it back off of pit lane. He has a meatball flag. Might be done for the day.
Oh, no, this, Scotty. We got cars 2 and 3 wide going on to turn 1. And
boy.
It's not just racing. They're actually just avoiding the spray so they can see where the corner is, to be honest. There's so much spray out there at the start of the race. Stuart Shaw's got all of the luxury at the moment with no spray. And you can see that just as we go to the broadcast, and we can see the cars just popping out the spray, firing a little bit up, a little bit of paddle there, a little bit of oversteer on Adam Burhop's car. And you can see how bad it is in the spray. You can come up to the first chicane here. You've got 2 cars in front of you. You don't know where they're braking. You don't know which one's faster. And you don't know if you're over braking. They're really, really difficult driving conditions.
And an update en route was, I was just about to say it, he just jumps into the chat. Unfortunately, his PC has given up the ghost. Now has him at 2 laps down. Was actually the reason for the checkup in the safety car queue. He disappeared. No one had any idea where he was. And there was some avoiding action taken. And unfortunately, that didn't work out well for a number of drivers. Ben Jeffrey has now got an opportunity to continue to try and apply some pressure, and Isaac Norman is starting to close in on Josh Martinez. So a challenger driver could sit 3rd place on the road, outright standings. As I said, there's a huge moment. Was that Racanello? It might have been. No, it's Hugo Sutherland that's run wide, and now one of the SLM cars squeezes through. It's Darren Burgess who's now grabbed himself a boatload of spots. He will move his way up. Isaac Norman's just lost a spot as well, and I think that was to Richard Mair who goes on through. They'll side by side through the final chicane. It's getting hairy, and everyone is looking for a little bit of clean air, a little bit of breathing room. In the meantime, those front 2, they continue to go chasing after each other, but the rest of the field cannot see. Have a look at the spray on the main straight, Pete. It is now standing room only. You've got to find some way to get that visibility up, and there is just about nowhere to go.
Oh, absolutely. If you can't see, you can't drive, right? So you've got to be able to see. You've got to be able to find where you're going to hit the braking marks. You've got to be able to find where we've got to put the car.
Oh, boy.
You've got to be able to find where there's puddles on the track, which might actually make you understeer or oversteer. And you can see just hanging off the apex away from those puddles on turn 4 there, coming out up towards the first chicane. And again, you're looking for your braking marker. But where is it? There's all of this spray, and all you can see is a little blinking red light in front of you. You're going to hit the brake. Don't go up to the back of the Porsche. Come through the chicane, jump over the little chicane, and go make sure the paint doesn't throw you sideways, and keep going. That's a wonderful demonstration by Brock Caddaye there. I'm loving it in the wet. Here we go. Have a go. Have a go.
He was thinking about it. He did shove the nose out as they got into the braking zone for the second chicane down on here. Now he's just fallen back in line. Look at the steering lock he's having add in. That car is just not grabbing in the front end, and then all of a sudden it does. It takes off again as soon as he gets off the painted lines of the curb. There is a reasonable battle going on up front for our race lead, and Martinez has actually found some time. He's starting to go with them. Coleman has skipped through all of these guys. He restarted out at 9th, now sits 4th. He got by both of those guys when they were squabbling at the chicane at the end of last lap. This corner that we're just coming up to right now presented with an opportunity to go hunting. Could a podium still be on the cards for Owen Coleman? That'll be comeback driver of the century.
I tell you, we're seeing if it is, this is championship level driving, right? So Owen's had it up against him for the race, ended up back in the mid pack, and he's just fought back with alternate strategies. Used the safety car to get back up there, now he's up in 4th. So that's awesome. But some other sad news. It looks like Dan Magby's had to pull out of the race. He's had another PC freeze as well. So it's looking like. Do you think it's the rain, or Scotty? It's just
there's a car off.
PC's got an issue.
Stu Shaw's off. Stu Shaw's in the fence. Stu but sure is in the fence on the gravel as they go past through turn 3. And this will tell the story. Race leader had to push on, had to be a little bit aggressive. Runs all the way out to the curbing. Does it touch a little bit of paint? No, it locks in the rear. Dances on the rubber. Does he keep it out of the fence? Just. My word.
That's magic driving to keep that off the fence. It looks like he just got caught out by a bit of aquaplaning on the track, mate. That, you know, maybe touched a little bit of the paint, and then bam, it was off and into the sand. So well done to keep that off the fence. That's magic driving. But yeah, no, back down into P5 now for Stu Short. And now this is giving us some new drivers up the front. Yeah, old Martin is up there. Yeah, currently running. Where is he? I'm just trying to look for. Yeah,
Jeffrey. He's overtaken that position on the lap as well. So Martinez has come out and grabbed that spot. This will be the first time tonight he leads the race. This is the first time tonight he's had pace. He has struggled for pace the entire night up until this point. As soon as the rain came out, Josh Martinez went backwards, now leads the race. And Pete, we're running out of time now because we're down to 47 minutes to go. If you're going to have pace to burn, now's the time. The problem is Coleman is coming. And Coleman will not hang around for very, very long. I wonder whether or not Ben Jeffrey might have caught a slowdown penalty over one of the chicanes. I reckon that might have decided things here.
Yeah, highly likely, but Ben Jeffrey and Owen Coleman, they're both up the top of the championship. You know that they're going to be putting pressure onto Josh Martinez. It looks like I'm looking for Josh Martinez in the leaderboard of the championship standings. I can't find him. So is this his first race? Is he out? Have we got a rookie PEL driver leading in the rain?
I think so.
How could he start?
And yeah, that was a slowdown penalty. That was absolutely a slowdown penalty for Ben Jeffrey to change the lead over. Well, now, the first time tonight, he's had a little bit of an opportunity off on his own. He's not really been under threat or under pressure. He's the only car in the field, Pete, that hasn't got to look through the spray.
And you've got to wait for that. As the gaps widen up, that spray drops off for those that sort of drop back a little bit. You know, Owen and Norman might be taking advantage of that because they have just dropped down a little bit. The spray really only affects you if you're about half a second behind another car. Other than that, you can sort of tend to get away. We're in another little bit of a dry patch. Not a lot of water dropping at the moment on the track. We might see a dry line emerging very briefly, but ladies and gents, I can tell you that there is more precipitation on the way.
Pete's planned precipitation. Well, it's not planned, it's not called for, but it has spiced up the racing here tonight. And in the meantime, who does lead the standings in terms of that Challenger class? It is still Norman that leads that way, but now it's Brock Caddaye in second. And Rain Campbell sits in third. Have a look at all the Challenger drivers, Pete, that are lurking on the back end of the top 10. There's, what, six of them? They're not leading the way in terms of things, but if you look at the top 20, I think they're actually, well, the top 10, I think it's 50-50. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, I was looking at the same thing, and out of the top 13 cars, 7 of them are Challengers. So that is awesome by the Challengers drivers. That just goes to prove this is, you know, sometimes you mightn't always be the most super fast drivers, but when the wet weather comes down, it's really about smoothness and it's not necessarily just about pure speed. So a little bit of luck comes into it as well, and we've seen that, you know, even the elite class drivers in the Premier Endurance League here can just make those little mistakes, and it affects a couple of them at the same time. Oh, here we go. That was a little bit oversteering of the chicane by Greg Brooks. He is pushing hard. He doesn't want to be staying down in P15. He's trying to get back up the front and find his way into that first chicane.
Well, Greg Brooks is in a world of pain, and it's a world of pain all his own creation. Think back to that pit strategy. He's got a 10-second penalty, you know, by the way, which currently would put him outside of 21st place in terms of things. If you were to apply that 10 seconds right now. So he needs this to go green flag running to the end of the race. Right now, he's right up and underneath that rear bumper of Jackson Pringle. He's made contact with Jackson Pringle, and now he's run wide. Now he's going to get harassed by his own teammate. It's Adam Burhop in the Tractix entry. No, actually, I don't think they are teammates. You know what? They might be. And Stefan Mellis has had an issue.
The cars are painted the same in their Discord. They're probably saying, no, don't overtake me. I'm going, okay, don't overtake me. But, yeah, at least, the cars look the same, so they look like they're on the same team.
Yeah, well, the difficulty right now, Pete, for Greg Brooks is he's got to go. He doesn't have a choice, right? If this is going to go into another pit stop, he's just got to put as much time as he possibly can on the field. He might be one of the first drivers to that pit lane to get that stop so he can get clear air, because he's exceptionally quick. We know that. Put the car on pole position. But now he's got to wind this thing up for the race home. He's got to do some overtaking. He's got to get those elbows out. The next car on the road for him is going to be Jackson Pringle. He's already made contact at the hairpin, but setting up an overtake in the rain, it's just not that easy as get pace, show pace, whiz on by.
No, I'd like to see some of the live fuel calculators now, because I've got to say, I've got a feeling that one or two of these guys might be right, driving on a lift and coast methodology to get to the end. And it's those guys that pitted in the lap 30. So Owen Coleman's the sort of lead of them. Dean Hunt as the lead challenger.
Contact car around. And that was Richard Mair. Actually, no, it might have been Richard Mair. Richard Mair was just saying there was a car back. It was Richard Mair, actually. And something's happened to Jimmy Middleton.
Wiggly Middleton in the yellow Ferrari. Yeah, no, he's just locked the back end. He's same place he lost it last time, isn't it? He's just missed that wall by a different 10 feet. Get the bumper on again.
I like that nickname. Rather than the truck driver, it's going to be Mr. Squiggle from his perspective. Dean Hunt's backwards. And that was contact with the rear end of Richard Mair. That's what we were seeing. Look at it straight out of the way. Car 47's just had contact at the hairpin. So Dean Hunt has just got to whack to the rear. My word!
No, there's massive contact there. That was a front to rear contact with the back of the Ferrari. I didn't see who that was, but it was.
We need to go on board.
Really
I think we need to go on board. Look at the spray, and Dean Hunt I think's popped out of the spray and seen that.
That is aquaplane. That is aquaplane off. That is no contact there. That car has just aquaplaned and lost the rear, gone straight off into the wall. But what's happened is the other cars have checked up, and then there's been a little bit of contact impacted the likes of Greg Brooks and that at the back of the race. So Hugo Sullivan has just succumbed to a little bit of aquaplaning there. No malice at all in anything. What a shame.
But it was the stuff in behind that I was keeping half an eye on, and it was the guys that were going around. Well, Stewie Shaw has now got to get the elbows out as well, because he's got to pass all these guys, but he's got to put time on. He grabs a 5-second penalty now, only loses one spot. 7th place Brock Caddaye is 17 seconds off the leader. He's about 8 seconds behind Stu Shaw in terms of things. Remember, 2nd place in class. How good is Isaac Norman doing, though? And it was Dean Hunt earlier. He did pit, Pete. He took your strategy, but he missed the window in terms of when to pit. I think he pitted on the 2nd lap and lost all that track position. Oh! There's another Porsche nearly going around.
That's Greg Brooks again. Yeah. He's trying really, really hard, and he's put his teammate under another pressure again. So hang on, if you're going to keep doing this,
I reckon if he has to pit again, he's got to pit soon. Get yourself out of this queue. Stop being in this queue.
Yeah, get out. Get clean air. If you're fast in clean air, go and find it.
I just don't see he's got a choice. I think, Pete, the pace has come back up as well in the race. I don't think they're going to make it to the end from where that safety car was. It's going to be tight. It's doable, but it's not going to be easy. It is going to take a lot of saving, and I just don't think it's possible. We did see what we thought was impossible last round, though, so...
No, I'm going to call it that one thing we're missing is that there's more water about to fall on the track, right? So the paces, the driving line is just emerging, and there's more rain coming, and it's going to slow us down again. So potentially, I think what we're seeing right now is going to change the race again, and it's really just patience. But for Greg Brooks, I think you're right. I think if he's got another fuel stop to go, he should look at trying to get in, just top that tank up to get to the end, find some clear track, and just make the most of his speed and undercut. Because right now, trying to overtake people is actually costing him time, I think.
Massive amounts of time. Anyway, well, he's got an opportunity. Oh, car off just up ahead. That is going to be Matthew Kidd as he rejoins and tries to keep it out of everyone's way. They all manage to stay away from each other. And he will get that car on. He's had a reasonable race thus far. Now he's lost a few spots. So in terms of the Challenger class, Norman's got it by a country mile as it currently stands. Brock Caddaye's at 2nd, but Rain Campbell is coming at him. And Mark Foster's just in behind Rain Campbell. So we have a podium fight on. There is 3 drivers that can sit on it. Right now, there is a 3-way fight for the bottom 2 steps of the Challenger class podium. And it is close. 2 seconds covers those 3 cars. Now we're keeping our eyes a little bit further back, and this is Jackson Pringle, who's now defending from Greg Brooks.
Yeah, and we got really mixed up because some of these guys that would normally be out the front, like Jackson Pringle, Greg Brooks, you know, these guys have been racing at the front, and now they're sitting behind a couple of Challenger class guys. I see Brooksy has got around now, and yeah, he's now got that open space. So you know, forget about the pitting now, Boxing. Just get out and go.
Well, he's out and he's in the sand trap, and I think what our producer was just trying to tell us was that Owen Coleman's caught up to the back of the leaders, which he has done, so that's what we're sort of keeping an eye on. And now, the problem for Greg Brooks is, how do you get by? Like we were saying before, Zolder, she's single line around here, and normally at the best of times, it is very, very difficult to pull off an overtake. Now, you've got to find speed somewhere offline.
And not only that, Jackson Priggle's a one-on-one competitor, right? Jackson's not going to give this up. It's not like it's a challenger versus elite issue here. Jackson's the kind of guy who can compete for a win just as well as Greg Brooks can. So they are going to fight for that position. I think Jackson will defend, and rightfully so. He should be able to defend his position on the track. That's not going to make it easy for Brooksy as they go. But I see
they're side by side at the hairpin,
and away they go.
Yep, so I can tell you Brooks has just finally got that job done, but this is the race that we're looking on for our lead. And Coleman's caught them. He's caught them. He was a few seconds back when he finally got that job done to get himself to P3. Well, now he's attached to them. And the thing for Coleman is he will have a few extra litres worth of fuel to add to this car to get home. He did pit just before the safety car. It was only a lap or two at the most, but it was just before the safety car. What does that mean? Well, if you filled the tank at that period in time, everyone else filled the tank when the safety car came out. That means he's going to have a little bit more of a hole. It's only going to be in the realm of 4.5 litres at the absolute most, but that is time you've got to do in the lane stop that nobody else has to. It'll probably be in the realm of 2.5 seconds he's sort of got to make up. So not only is he going to get this overtake done, he's then going to try and scamper down the road, and that is not going to be easy, Pete. First, that overtake.
Well, yep. It's one.
Here we go. Gets to the inside. Right now, he's down the inside on Ben Jeffrey, and there just was not the traction on the low side there as they come out down the back side of the course. Now he's going to try and pull the car up nice and easily and try and rotate it back through the apex. He's got speed. He's caught these guys. He's breathing down their neck, but the job is not yet done. And I wonder whether or not Coleman might think about the undercut.
Isn't that just exceptional racing, though, Scotty? To see Owen got right up the inside, right up beside Ben Jeffrey there, but they both gave each other racing room. Owen, realised that Ben had a better run to be able to get through the next set of corners, so he slotted back in. He didn't push it too hard. A lot of people would overdrive that side. And that just shows the class of these guys out the front. They can race side by side. They don't need to bang doors to be able to get positions, and that's really classy racing. So kudos to both Ben and Owen for pulling that off and giving us that sort of display in the wet, let alone Ben. I wanted to, you're driving like that in the dry is hard enough, but doing it in the wet is just, absolutely fantastic. So great driving.
Well, for the meantime, this battle will remain nice and stable. In the meantime, though, Brock Caddaye is right. He's fallen, actually. Caddye's lost 2 spots to Ryan Campbell and Adam Burhop. So Challenger class podium's been shaken up, and Brock Caddaye, after sitting on the second step of that rostrum, now sits off of the rostrum in the Challenger class. And the difficulty now is he's got to try and get back to Adam Burhop. Sorry, Burhop, my apologies, not in the Challenger class. So he does still have a foot on it at this point in time. Sal Harney's actually the next member of the Challenger class. He's got some driving to do to catch up there. They're still going side by side. Coleman on Jeffrey. Not done. They will actually bang doors that time. So contact's now been made between the 2 Porsche drivers. And still not done. Now Coleman steps out onto the rubber and have a look at the car. Squirm under brakes. Now he gets it pulled up. A squirm now is going to come out of the rear end of Ben Jeffrey as he tries to get traction down in the 150 Porsche. What can he do? What's he capable of? Coleman's going to have to slot back in. Looks for a rotation point at the chicane, and that dry line has started to form. The rain is on and off. It's intermittent rain as it currently stands. Track is drying in some parts, but it's icy in others. And if he's going to get this done, Coleman, he's got to get it done soon. He's got to give himself enough time to try and clear out. In the meantime, though, look at that track map. The problem he's got is if he pits now, he comes out in traffic. So that's not going to aid him any. So he might just have to run with this. He's forced to do it on track.
No, if it's clear, keep it running, right? And if you're going fast, don't pit. So, keep that philosophy. You only sort of take those alternate strategies when you need to. If you're getting slowed down by other traffic, and you're not going to come out and get slowed down. And it's still on. These guys, fabulous race. What a demonstration of racing.
Well, he's on the rubber, so he's on the slick line. He was never going to outbrake the competition up ahead. But Ben Jeffrey, I think, might have just picked up a slowdown penalty. No, he didn't. He got away with one right there. But that just says for Coleman, now he's squirming all over him. Now he moves back to the rubbered side of the road on the left-hand side. There's no grip out there. He tries to pull the car up. He does manage to do that successfully, which a few other drivers may not have been able to do thus far tonight. Now he gets the drive, gets underneath him again. Jeffrey's aware of it. He's tried this move 2 laps in a row. Can't make it 3. But this time he'll have to settle down on him behind. Doesn't quite get the drive off. He's not quite close enough and moves back over to that rubbered-in racing line to try and have a go. Look how slow, though, Ben Jeffrey is at the apex. He's got to get that car rotated and pointed, and that means, in terms of things for Owen Coleman, he's very, very slow. He checks him up at the apex.
Yeah, no, and Ben's doing everything right. He's putting the car right on the piece of the track that actually makes it further for Owen Coleman to get around. It's all fair. He's allowed to do that. He's not moving, and he's going well. But what it's doing is giving Josh Martinez a time. He's nearly 3 seconds out in front of them now because by going offline and putting himself in the defensive position, Ben Jeffrey's actually slowing down Owen Coleman and himself. And Josh is getting away just a little bit. So yeah, Owen's got to get it done and get a move on. Maybe this lap car here will make a difference.
Stu Shaw's got his way back to 4th spot as he's now got an opportunity. Rain Campbell out of the Challenger class is going to dive to the lane, try and get himself a breath of fresh air in terms of traffic space. Whereas Greg Brooks, he's still not yet come to the lane, so something for him to start thinking about. Still struggling to get some overtakes done. That was Dean Hunt that the lead pack just skipped on by as he continues his fall through the field. Finally, the mistake comes and Owen Coleman bounces. He's gone all the way to the rear of the field, down into the 30s. Now he sits 2nd spot. And he just had to lurk. He just had to lurk and wait, and Ben Jeffrey, the mistake came. It took him 5 or so laps, but finally the opportunity presented itself, and Owen Coleman grabs it with both hands.
Oh, such a small opportunity too, but what an opportunity just to see that little bit of a squeal going under brakes, little bit of a missed drive through the chicane, and Coleman grabs it with 2 hands and it's like, righto Ben, let's go, let's come and get that Josh fella, and we got 4 seconds to make up. Let's go get him. Let's get this race done.
And the benefit now for Coleman is it means he is practiced with trying to get a job done, and he'll get an opportunity first among these guys. Ben Jeffrey did manage to do enough to go with Josh Martinez. Now he's fallen off the back end of him. What does Martinez do in terms of laps time? This time by 39.004. What does Coleman do? Coleman 39.719. Ben Jeffrey 41.1. So a very, very slow lap. Drops 2 seconds to these guys. Remember, Coleman got a pass done in the middle of that lap. Only dropped 7/10 for doing that. And with all the squabbling that was going on, what about Stewie Shaw, who's had a little bit of free track? Last time by 39.1. So he was the 2nd fastest behind Martinez. So he will catch this pack up ahead of him. And the other side of that...
Martinez! My word! He's come out of turn 4. He looks like he's just touched a little bit of water and touched the paint maybe. Come out. There it is. Yeah, just touched the paint, lost the back end into the side of the front. Oh, he's driving so well. What else can change in this race, Scotty?
Absolutely anything. Absolutely anything can change in this race. It's not done yet. And that means that pass that Owen Coleman put on Ben Jeffrey not too long ago, that now becomes a pass for the race lead. He's spent a long, long night coming for the rear end of the field. It's been a very long time since he's been back up here, and it's been a very difficult night. But that is when the true masters come to the table. We may not be calling him Master of the Wet just yet, but in the meantime, he's driven through the field. So Master of the class as it currently stands. I still think we're going to need another rain race to decide whether or not who the rain master is in the field. Isaac Norman as well. Continue to talk about that story because he sits 5th spot. He's done a phenomenal job so far tonight in the Challenger class. And it's going to continue. How long before these guys come to pit lane? Well, all 3 of them have gone through. Stewie Shaw's gone through as well. Where is Brooks? That's the real key. And I tell you what, Greg Brooks has finally managed to clear Adam Jepson, which he will be very, very happy about. Now underneath the rear bumper of Salhani.
Yeah, and the rain is coming back down again. You might have seen some droplets on the screen coming back through, so we're due for another period of some more rain and that little bit more water coming down on the track. So it looks like a dry line, and then that dry line goes away. It's almost teasing the drivers to say, come on, I'm going to let you go fast, but no, I won't really.
Now Stu Shaw starts to close up in on Martinez, and you got to wonder how much damage Martinez is carrying, because that does not look a very happy Audi as it bounces all over the curbs.
Yeah, really untidy. He took a fairly strong hit to the front of the car, so he's certainly going to have some upset aero. He's probably got a little bit more understeer than he's had all night in that Audi, but yeah, but it looks like he's been able to get it going. He's losing a little bit of time, but not too much. But Stu Shaw, look who's going to put up. But I tell you what, you're right about Isaac Norman. He is just running a race of his own in the Challenger classes, and he's got no pressure from anybody else in the Challenger class. Brock Caddaye was just giving him credit. Brock's just come in and done his last pit stop now. So I think we're going to see those pit stops, which will be.
I think Martinez just ran wide. I'm pretty sure Martinez just ran wide yet again. Greg Brooks now got on screen as he starts to cut his way back through the field. Finally gets the job done on Salhani. So he'll move himself up a spot. But I'm pretty sure Martinez just ran wide. So Stu Shaw's now skipped on through. And yet touches the rubber.
Yep. Did you see the little squiggle at the back end of the car there, just as he went in the brakes? That's a clear sign that there's a little bit more water under the track, and you just need to adjust your brake bias a bit. And maybe Josh just missed that little trick as the extra water come down on the track. Just a little bit of oversteer, driving off, and then he's given that position away. Hasn't lost too much out of that, but.
Greg Brooks is now going to go flying through because Racanello has just made a mistake at the final chicane. So that's another spot for Greg Brooks. Stu Shaw's in pit lane. Stu Shaw's just come to the lane. So all of a sudden the strategy starts to open itself up. Who is going to do what? If Stu Shaw is quick, for me, Pete, I think he had to be a touch closer. I think he had to be a touch closer to that lead group because now he's not going to undercut anyone.
He might undercut, but depends where he comes out. There's a big gaggle of cars coming around the hairpin now up towards it, so it depends where he comes out. If he can come out in a little bit of open space, there is a nice little gap there. If he can come out, he might be able to make the most of it. But as long as he doesn't get stuck behind the gaggle of cars, he should be okay.
He's actually in a hugely amount of vacant space. He's just come back out. Stu Shaw in 11th spot, and there is a heap of free track around him. Jepson's in. I think that was, Selhani? Yes, Selhani's in. Hallinen's in. So now they all come in for their final stops of the night. There will definitely be no more pit stops after this one for the drivers that have now got those complete. The problem is, who can go to the end in terms of fuel? There's a few drivers that'll try it. I get the feeling Richard Mair might, but he is so far back. Indeed, he's actually off the lead lap after contact and everything sort of unfolded itself, and I think he actually might have made that extra stop already. Dean Hunt cracks on. He's got a little bit of clear road. He's made his final stop for the night. So the field goes into shuffle. Shuffle the deck of cards, Pete. Pull me out a wild card. Pull me out a joker. Who have you got your money on in this late of the race?
It's really hard to say Owen's not going to win this race right now. I mean, he's just classed it out, hasn't he? And he's got a shorter stop than all of the others to be able to fill up.
He's got a longer stop.
No, he pitted on lap 31, mate. Everybody else has pitted in the 20, so he's got the shortest. Really? Yeah, he's got the shortest stop in terms of fuel fill. So I think Owen's in the box seat right now. In terms of the Challenger car, it's hard to go past Isaac too. Isaac is just he's just running strong and running. There is slippery Jimmy. Malcolm in the middle, he just turns it around into the sand pit. Mate, yeah, get back on the bitumen stuff. We're playing the adult game in the rain today, not in the sand pit. Come on, Jimmy, let's go.
Does somebody want to queue up running in the 90s for me? Because that's what that looked like it looked like a really good drift entry to the hairpin. It was not a good drift exit.
Shout out to Jimmy though. He hasn't had to put up with Ricky Brodenzali tonight, so he's been able to get out there and race fairly without worrying about who's coming up in the mirror.
More pit stops are going to start to come through, and I think that might be our race leader in. No, it's Ben Jeffrey who now comes to the lane. So Owen Coleman's going to continue on. You know what? I think this will make 2 races in a row that Jimmy has beat Ricky. He beat him in the GT4s. He beat him in the GT4s last week, Pete.
Yeah, we'll have to put that up on the Discord. So 2 in a row. Yeah, that's not good for Ricky. I think Ricky's, Ricky might hang his head in shame there. But hey, Cher's just popped up a question about, do you think there'll be a third pit for some?
Absolutely.
And Cher, I actually think that nearly every car is going to do 3 pit stops tonight. The pit stops that we're seeing from those that have just come in will have been the third pit stop. Maybe the second for some if they didn't pit in that middle safety car. Anybody who pitted in that middle safety car will still need to come and do at least a splash for fuel, not necessarily tyres, but maybe a short sort of 5 8 or something, top up fuel to get to the end. So lots of 3 pit stops tonight, and that's associated not so much with the rain, but more so with the safety cars and where they've fallen through the 2 hours.
Yeah, where is everything standing as it currently stands? So we'll run through the list of retirements. We've just seen Martin Hallinan go around, by the way, so there is still everything settling on. Robert Edwards is the last car running. He is 6 laps down, will not grab any more spots before the end of the race. Nick Bottrell done for the day, minus 15 as it currently stands. Ben Woods minus 17, Ruud Koistra, Jesse McMenamin, Daniel Magri, boy, he was looking good in the early phase. Braden O'Loughlin, Rick Provenzale, Chris Ruddle, Sean Benici, Chris Pellet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 drivers who have retired here tonight. It has been a difficult night at the office.
Yeah, but also 6 of those drivers have reported to us with PC issues. So, challenging time. And I don't think that's associated with rain in iRacing. That's just the nature of sim racing, I guess. That these things do happen. As much as they say a 20-cent part in a real race car can stop your race, anything that goes wrong in your sim, you can stop your race, and that's our race car in this simulated racing environment.
Yep. Well, there's going to be some changing for position as it currently stands, because I think there's a few more drivers there. Have we just lost Owen Coleman? No, he's come to the lane. He's come to the pit lane and done his pit stop. I thought for a fraction of a second we might have actually lost him out of the server, because he wasn't. I did see him dropping. But he has managed to come back out.
Yeah, Owen's dropped in and out a couple of times, just maybe with a couple of connection issues, just very briefly. So, that might have been what you're seeing. But no, he has just gone into the pits. He's on his out lap now. Darren Burgess in the elite class just gone into pits as well. So we've still got a couple of cars. Jackson Pringle and Greg Brooks pitted on lap 34. He might be close to getting to the end. I don't know about Brooksy, but lap 34 was pretty. I remember Cohen pitted on lap 31, and that was just before the safety car came out. Brooksy pitted on lap 34, and that was like at the back end of the safety car. So, I don't know whether we haven't seen any cars being able to drive for an hour. We did see some go into the mid 50s in terms of time, so for fuel. But I think the top 3. I think Isaac Jackson and Greg Brooks have still got a pit stop to go, which really puts Owen in the box seat for the rest of the race.
By the way, Greg Brooks just said his fastest lap of the race, 38.149. So the track is quick right now. It's whether or not you can make it to the end of the race, and we are 20 minutes away from the end of the race. I don't think it's going to happen. The fact, on common pit, the one key I do want to get onto, as he's continued on for another lap here again, is Isaac Norman. We have a challenger driver leading the race. Now, it may be fuel strategy affected, but that is a great stat to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Isaac won the first Mugello in the Challenger class, so he's put it out there as one of the leading contenders in the Challenger. But to get up there and be in front of all of the elite guys, even if it is subject to pit stop, it's still wonderful to see, because he's got a nice 13-second gap. So that is just smooth, consistent survival driving in the rain. And yeah, shout out to Isaac. That is just awesome.
Well, I mentioned him. He then just cut the chicane immediately thereafter and picked himself up a slowdown penalty. So I'll stop talking about him. That may work in his favour. Commentator's curse is real. I can tell you that for real. But 20 minutes now left on the clock, which means we're in that final phase of the race. The key factors is how far behind is Stewie Hall. He's 16 seconds behind Owen Coleman, so he's had more dramas in the middle of that cycle of pit stops. He will currently lose a spot to Stefan Mellis, who sits inside the top 10. That's a phenomenal. That's the best Stefan Mellis has done. So there's a few drivers who I'm going to put an air quotes Rainmeister on, and they're both in the Challenger class. So Stefan Mellis and Isaac Norman is the best that these guys have certainly done in terms of overall standings. Where other drivers have fallen off, they have maintained, shall we say. And that's the reason that they're doing so well. And Isaac Norman's going to come to the pit lane right now. And that streak, in the meantime, keeping an eye on Burhop as it currently stands, is at the in front end of this battle pack.
Yeah, it's a nice little battle pack forming in. I can see that lime green little monster Porsche in there. That one I love to drive. It makes me thirsty every time I see it. Get out there, Fozzie, and give them a hard time, in the rain. But, yeah, it's a nice little battle there with all those little Challenger class guys getting out there and fighting hard in the rain.
Well, more overtaking going on screen. Check out Adrian Gretsch. Well, he's not going to be called Rainmeister, but he's the one certain name that Adrian Gretsch is never going to have for the foreseeable future, because I don't think anyone's going to let him have it, will be Fuelmeister. That moniker has certainly run away from him for forevermore, and we might have to call him Fuel Disaster more so than anything.
After the first few races, the Apollo Adrian had run out of fuel. And I don't feel bad in that first GT4 race, because I come over the line in 20th and Adrian was just rolling over. And to be honest, like 20th is not a really good position. I probably just should have stopped and pushed him in front of me, but didn't even realise he was running out of fuel there.
Yeah, it was a painfully slow crawl to the line. If you haven't seen it, you need to go back and check YouTube from the first round of the GT4s at the very end of the race from Mugello. It was painful to watch. It was painful to be in the driver's seat. And then 2 weeks later, he repeated the effort just to add to the pain that he felt. But that moment will live on in league history like no other. That is for sure. Racanello's now been into the pit lane and jumped back out. Carl Hudson. So that team, the Tractix Racing Group, there's so many cars of them. They've clearly found a league that they enjoy being in and around here, Pete. And they have got just about every one of them out and participating here.
Absolutely. Now, Isaac Norman's just done his pit stop. He's coming out in P6. That's P6, genuine pace with elite challengers. Oh, wow.
There's two cars. There's actually two cars on the road ahead of him yet to make their stop. Jackson Pringle and Greg Brooks. So those guys will definitely have to come to the pit lane. Everyone else that's ahead of him has done their final stop. So that puts him fourth on the road, Pete.
Yeah, it does. And I don't think... Jackson Prince surely has to come in pit. I don't think Brooksy will have enough fuel to get in. I think he will have to come in pit, but he won't have to fill up as much as Jackson. He might be able to jump Jackson in that stop depending on the fuel difference. It's got a 3-lap fuel difference there. So we'll see how it goes. But Owen Coleman's looking pretty sweet right now, unless Jackson or Greg has something to surprise us with. And yeah, Isaac is looking wonderfully sweet in that Challenger class. I tell you what, the other shout out is Ryan Campbell. Ryan Campbell is sitting P17th in the Challenger class. Mate, he's running second in the Challenger class tonight, number 92.
I do feel like I recall a penalty with his name on it, though. I may have to go digging for that one. So bear with me whilst I look into that, but it might have been the 93. And I'll come back to you with some details on whether or not Rain has a penalty, because I know he had a troublesome night from Aragon. Didn't go all his own way. But actually he doesn't have a penalty. So my eyes were deceiving me, my memory's deceiving me. In the meantime, keeping an eye on the battle for Adrian Gretsch that's currently on screen. Continues to sit in that spray of Hugo Sutherland, and that is a troublesome spot to sit. So it was interesting watching them take the chicanes there, Pete. They look like motocross bikes then.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I can confirm. There's nothing on my record saying that Rain's got a penalty, and I think he is a genuine P2 in the Challenger class. Running on top 10.
Well, the thing about Rain is, well, if anyone's going to do well out here tonight, it'll be him, because he should be a Rain master.
Oh, that is the dumbest pun that I've heard all night, Scotty Rain. You should get sacked for that.
Well, it was set up. I realised it. It's sat literally on the screen in front of me all night, Pete, as Adrian Gretsch squares the corner off and gets phenomenal drive and finally just gets that position. It took him a while to get alongside, but once he got there, he got the drive, and Hugo Sutherland was forced to watch. Now he's deep at the chicane. Is he going to pull it up? Sutherland's going to get the opportunity to respond. Hits the wall. Huge accident. Huge accident out of the last corner. He'll have steering damage for sure. Oh, my word. That was a big impact.
Oh, yeah, and immediately he slowed down. So immediately he's got some form of damage. It's got a little, it has to be front end steering damage, maybe a little bit
Right
on the
hand
back
down.
end there. Yeah, right hand. Yeah. So you might just see if he can limp it around. Hopefully he can limp it around, and it doesn't impact the race. What is safety car going to do with 14 minutes to go on a wet track, Scotty?
Oh my word! Where did that come? He got excited. You could see that he got excited, and he went to pull it up at the next corner. He just barely got through the left-hander. He went, "Yep, okay, this one's going to be fine," and he just kept picking up the throttle and picking up the throttle and picking up the throttle. Replay will tell the story. Watch, he's wide at this first apex, doesn't quite get the car pivoted in. Then he bounces over the curves. He's just trying to hold that speed, and that's what's killed him in the end. He didn't recognize he'd made a mistake early enough.
Just a little bit. I mean, there was a little bit of water on the edge of the track where he went wide coming in. That probably put him just off. Right on the edge of the track here as he goes to turn in. And that's just cost him because it's put him out of sync for the rest of the turn. And then you're driven off and into the fence there. And, game over. Oh, hard to watch.
Heartbreaking.
Yes, good on him. He's getting it around and finish it without impacting the race. So good on you, Adrian. Unfortunately, that's a bad way to finish the race, but good on you for doing the right thing.
I'm just going to start calling him the Heartbreak Kid because you can't just call him the Fuel Master, fuel disaster. That doesn't just work anymore. He's added more onto it. Heartbreak Kid, Adrian Gretsch. Oh boy. Anyway, back up towards the pointy end of things. I think we're looking at Greg Brooks, who's continuing on, who's stuck in behind a lapped car. No, it's not lap car. My apologies. It's Jackson Pringles. This battle's back on. And remember,
these guys have found themselves all the way through the race, haven't they?
They have traded blows a number of times now, Pete, as they both try and get into this chicane, and Greg just cannot get that car pulled up. He was alongside for such a long period of time. Now he's on the paint, transitions back to the rubber, still trying to get the job done. He's been trying to get this move done for about half an hour. Finally, he's got drive, but now Pringle's going to cover him. There was no opportunity to get side by side. There's no grip on the left-hand side of the road. He's sort of just got to chase Pringle in, force Pringle into a mistake. They're both slow at the apex. I really like that wide turn-in line that Greg Brooks was using earlier on. He was getting so much drive off. You just got to shadow him, I think, and force the mistake. Feel those mirrors at this point in time, Pete, because I just don't... I can't see him getting by.
Not right now. Jackson's been able to cover him quite well, and they are about the same pace. You really need a little bit of extra pace delta to be able to get power cars. And if somebody can cover well, and again, there's a little bit more rain coming down, so you really don't know what's the fastest line right now. So that's hard. But again, kudos. I want to shout out to both Jackson and Greg there. Brilliant driving on both of them. Be able to run side by side for Brooks to be able to just pull up and tuck in behind him for the chicane. Many of us amateurs that bloody run into each other and end up causing a crash. So these guys are just putting on an absolute show of really classic good driving. So good on both of them.
Well, they're going to chase each other down to that second chicane. Still not done. This is where he looks a little bit closer. There's another car on the road just ahead. It's Richard Mair, though. He is a lap down and getting out of the way of these guys. Well done by Richard. After winning last time out, you might have thought he might have been in with a shot of another decent result here tonight. And it's not been the case for the driver in charge of the Sud Speed Gloves manufacturing. And that's Sud Speed brand. But as it stands, this battle is just... It's so good to watch, Pete.
Oh, the racing's been fabulous. Even though it's been wet and it's been a little bit muddy and murky, the guys have really sort of proven to us how classy they are in terms of driving. But not only that, how classy they are in terms of driving together. Making sure that they don't impact each other. There's been some contacts, and that's nearly always going to happen in a lot of this racing. But the guys at the front of the field, this is why they get good results, is because they can challenge each other, but they can stay on the track and they stay up the front with everybody. And even though they challenge each other, they may or may not swap positions. They're still there. They're still getting results. They're still recording it at the end of the day, and they're getting the points on the board. And that's what you want to see. And that's how you win a championship.
Well, still trying to apply pressure to that rear bumper. Still not necessarily disappearing. How about Owen Coleman, though? Once he got to that lead, he is 15 seconds up the road. Out of sight, out of mind, out of space is what that lead looks like.
Yeah, that's just absolute magic. And It looks like we're going to just come into another drier patch for the last 10 minutes of this race. The rain might stop falling. We might get a little bit of a dry track forming, but there's certainly going to be no slick tyres put on for the end of this race. I think these guys are running what they've got until the end now.
Well, the key factor at the moment is, whilst we're watching this battle, it's academic. Greg Brooks has got 10 seconds worth of penalty to be added to his post-race time, so it means absolutely nothing in terms of their on-track performance, because even if he gets the job done, you feel with 5 minutes on the clock as it currently stands, or so, sorry, 9 minutes on the clock as it currently stands, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to get away to that volume of time.
So if you're Jackson Pringle's spotter, do you let him know that and say, let him go?
No.
You don't need to worry about him?
No, I don't. Absolutely not, because I want to keep him behind me. Just in case. What happens if he clears me and then I make a mistake, Pete? It's just not worth it. Right now he's covering. He's not doing all that much to keep him behind. He's not losing. Oh, boy! There's a mistake. Oh, he's got away with that one, does Greg Brooks. Oh.
Did we just curse Brooks here?
Certainly did our best. By the way, Josh Martinez, after all of that hullabaloo that went on, is now back to 8th spot, but remember, he'll grab this spot after the post-race penalty. But Ben Jeffrey is sitting comfortable in P2 as it currently stands. Stu Shaw's going to go with him. Oh, there's a huge moment.
That's Jackson Pringle.
Jackson
That is
Pringle's
Jackson
around.
Pringle. He's just lost the back end of the car coming out of turn 4.
And he's going to continue on with it. So this is the same spot as we saw Martinez go around just before, by the way. So this is the run through turn 1. This is the run off of turn 3 into turn 4. Where does he lose? Is he on the exit? Touches the paint. Touches the paint,
touches the paint in the puddle. Yep, that puddle is dangerous. Oh, yeah. Lucky he didn't keep reversing and do a Pete Baxter. Oh, great. Do we just curse both Jackson and Brooksy? Scotty? Should we stop talking about the drivers in this race?
Well, Brooks is now through, which now moves him up into 6th spot as it currently stands. He's still going to lose the spot to Josh Martinez in behind him right now. But remember, Martinez has got damage. He's not on the pace. 39.0 last time by. And we'll get a better lap time for Greg Brooks this time by. His last lap was very dirty. Hugo Sutherland on screen as it currently stands, down in 16th spot. Remember, he's looking a little bit better. There was that huge pack post-restart. He's lost a few spots in and around that race pack. At the moment, I believe he's actually got Dean Hunt, who's just gotten around him on this lap, and that was Dean Hunt ahead of him, who had a big old slide into the hairpin, and then Sutherland did his best Dean Hunt impersonation behind.
No, and it looks like we were talking up the challenges before, how they've come up and they were fighting in the top 15. It looks like the elite class has sort of risen to the top again. But, shout out again to Isaac Normey, still running there in P4. Rain Campbell in P8 as the second of the challenges. But I tell you what, the podium position for the challenges between Brock Caddaye and Mark Foster, that's still up for grabs. Mark's got a few seconds he has to catch up onto Brock Caddaye, but it's certainly not over yet with about 6 minutes left to run.
Yeah, so in terms of your challenger class standings, Norman from Campbell from Caddaye with Foster just in behind Caddaye. So that one's not going to go away. And that track is starting to dry. Those lap times are starting to look the best that they've looked all night long. And Coleman's got to turn a speed now so that the spray's lessening. The sun is starting to shine. But it'll again be intermittent.
Yep, intermittent. The intermittent rain staying all the way through. So I think we might be lucky now, with only 5 minutes to go, we might be lucky to see a dry line emerge just before the end. But yeah, there is more rain coming if it comes back onto the track. I don't know. We might just get to the end of the race.
Oh, there's another car off. Robert Edwards is off in the chicane yet again, so he will try. I think we just heard Greg Brooks is off. Greg Brooks is off. He's in the start-finish straight. So we saw a huge moment through the chicane just before. Now it's on the other side of the chicane. Did he clout the barrier on the left?
Yeah, it looks like he's done exactly the same thing that Adrian Grech done. He's just come out and just understeered into that barrier on the left-hand side. Oh, he's had to wait finally get the rejoin.
Oh, frustrating. And he does just barely clip that barrier.
Just barely clipped that. Oh, so after all of that fight back, he was up the front and then he's dropped back and then all of that fight back. Some little mistake with 4.5 minutes to go. That's going to be hard to come back from now.
Yeah.
But what that does, puts young Stuart Shaw up into the podium position spot.
Well, Stewie was already there. It was Norman we were hoping might squeak his way onto the podium. Hasn't done that, but it has elevated Josh Martinez. How about Darren Burgess? We haven't talked about him at all tonight. Not one iota have we ever actually mentioned Darren Burgess. And he's in 5th spot.
He's running in 5th spot. Yeah, what a quiet achiever.
It's not been an out of the box, or he's not done anything exceptional, but I think that's also been the best possible case for him. Hasn't had an exceptional turn of speed, but it also hasn't run it off the racetrack. He's kept it clean. Remember, he's ahead of Josh Martinez, and Martinez has led laps. Right, Greg Brooks has led laps. He's also ahead of him. So we'll run through your running order as it currently stands. Coleman from Jeffrey from Shaw in terms of the current running order in our elite class and on the road. Isaac Norman then in 4th spot, the leader of your challenger class. Darren Burgess sits 5th in the first of the SLM cars from Rain Campbell's the 2nd place challenger entry. Jackson Pringle's next on road, and Brock Caddaye rounds out the podium. And that battle's not done yet because Cadday's only a couple seconds up the road from Mark Foster, who sits inside the 10. The problem is, we've just talked about Mike Foster. Somebody's going to throw a rabbit or something out on the road in front of him, and he'll hit that, and that'll be the end of him. So I better stop talking as quickly as possible. Brooks is now outside the top 10, sits at 1 minute 6 seconds back from the leader. 10-second penalty at the moment will drop him down to 15th spot, so he's still set to fall. He's got some time to make. And Adam Burhop just came back to the pit lane, Pete. I reckon the pace has come up.
Yeah, well, the pace is in the 37s now for Coleman, so that's probably the fastest we've seen all race. So that the track is really the driest we've seen, but again, I mean, there's a little bit of rain just about to fall on the track again, so I don't think we're going to go into the 35s or anything like that. It mightn't, nothing magic. It's just a nice little bit of period here at the end of the race where the guys can get some dry track. Hopefully it just stays dry enough for them to sort of settle and get to the end, because to be honest, you don't really want a last lap where there's lots of water down.
Well, it is coming down. Who was that off the side of the track? Was that Jimmy Middleton, I think, in the yellow Ferrari?
It looked like the Rain Man, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get Carl Hudson coming into the pit lane. So there are a couple cars with that lift in pace, Pete. They don't have the fuel anymore. There is a dry line actually forming. I am seeing elements of a dry line now starting to form, but we're not going to get enough time. So we won't even talk about slicks. It's just not going to happen. But, yeah, so we talked through your top 10. Greg Brooks was 11th. Burhop 12th. Burhop did come to the lane, which has now changed and brought Kid up 1 spot in the challenger class as well. Stelhani in 13th. Racanello 14th. 15th is Dean Hunt. Hugo Sutherland 16th. That's the closest battle on track as it currently stands. Although Burgess is going with Norman as it currently stands. If you're sitting there and you're talking to either of those drivers, you just say, it's not a position on track, boys. Just lock it down. Just accept it where it is on road.
Yeah, take it and get to the end, to be honest. If you're there, unless you're racing for position and you're racing, it's take the points you got on offer right now, because we've seen some big names drop out. Look, have a look at the elite class dudes we got dropped out. Ben Woods, Rick Koistra, Jesse McManaman in the challenger class, Dan Magri, Ricky Provenzali, all guys that are out and scoring no points tonight, and these guys entered, but the wet weather's caught them out.
Something's happened to Stefan Mellis because now he's fallen to 18th. So I wonder whether or not he's just gone through the lane as well. No, he's just set his fastest lap of the race. So something's happened at him, turn 1 and 2. But Owen Coleman's just gone through. He will be on his last lap of the race. The run to home for the driver of the 97. It wasn't the start to the race that he was looking for, but then he put the head down. He had to drive through the entire field, had to burn the fast repair. If anything else happened, it would have been race over. There would have been no second chances after that one. He'd already burned his second chance. But when champions stand up and they ask to be counted, At the end of the season, if Coleman wins another title, remember this race, because this will mean so much in terms of those points. Not only has he got to the front, he's clear by 20 seconds, an utterly dominating performance in the second half of the race. He fought through the traffic, he fought through the spray. There's gonna be clear track ahead of him as he comes to the final chicane for the final time tonight. Owen Coleman in the 9-7 Porsche for the F.A.R.T drivers team is going to get the win from Zolder. My word, it's going to be a fairly long wait back to Ben Jeffrey. He fought with him, he squabbled with him, he led him for a very long period of time, and then finally the mistake came. But Ben Jeffrey can still stand up, and again, when the rain come down, he stood up to be counted. In P2, Ben Jeffrey in the 150 Porsche. Phenomenal job from Jeffrey. Stewie Shaw out of the last corner. He's led this race at moments. He's had an opportunity to put his name up there and win this thing here tonight. Didn't get it done. 5-second penalty for Stuart Shaw will not change his position in the overall standings at the tail end of the race. But Isaac Norman, 4th place on the road. What a drive from the number 12 Ferrari. Darren Burgess falls off the road a little bit on the final lap of the race and loses some time. Will come home in P5 just. Martinez caught him on the last lap. So something happened to Burgess on that last lap. Rain Campbell is going to go door-to-door with Jackson Pringle. And I think Pringle got him on the line. Pringle did get him on the line by 15 thousandths of a second as they run to the line. And this is the replay of what happened to Jackson Pringle. Is it the same puddle? Don't tell me it's not the same puddle. So this is the run to the line. My apologies. This is the run out of the final. No, this is earlier in the lap. So we'll run you through the final standings in terms of things, because these guys are on their cooldown lap as it currently stands. But your final running order: Coleman from Jeffrey from Shaw, Isaac Norman wins your Challenger class, Rain Campbell from Brock Caddaye in your Challenger class. Caddaye and Campbell finishes 8th from Caddaye and 9th. Fozzie finishes inside the 10. Darren Burgess nearly loses 5th spot on that last lap. Nearly loses 5th spot on that last lap. That'll need to be remembered in the back of your mind. They all get home. Owen Coleman from Ben Jeffrey, Stewie Shaw, Isaac Norman, Darren Burgess, Josh Martinez, Jackson Pringle, Rain Campbell, Brock Caddaye, Mark Foster, Greg Brooks. Boy, he's going to lose a bunch of spots. No, it's just going to be the one for Greg Brooks to Matt Kidd. So those two positions will swap around. Aaron Racanello, Dean Hunt will finish on the lead lap, just in front of James Selhani, Hugo Sutherland, Adam Burhop, and Adam Jepson. First car off of the lead lap. Stefan Mellor second off of the lead lap. Martin Hallinan from Richard Mair from Carl Hudson. Jimmy Middleton will finish at 1 lap down, but did finish, which means he beats Ricky. That's the only result he'll be considering. Robert Edwards finishes at 8 laps down. Middleton was 5. Gretsch 9 laps down, so something happened to Adrian Gretsch late in the piece. And then from there on back, it'll be the retirements. Nick Bottrell from Ben Woods, from Rue Koistra, Jesse McManaman, Daniel Magri, Braden O'Loughlin, Provenzali, Ruddle, Benici, and Pellet to round us out. Non-starters, Lisa McCollum and Andrew Proctor and Greg McIntosh not able to take the grid. That was a race, Pete.
Absolutely. Key takeaways, mate. Owen Coleman can drive in the dry and the wet. That's absolutely normal. Isaac Norman, absolutely massive drive. That was just fantastic to see. Not just winning the Challenger class, but getting up there and just missing out an all-time podium for the race tonight against all of these elite class drivers. We saw some of the elite class drivers drop out because of incidents, but that's classic racing in a slippery, challenging environment. We saw some really, really good examples of what happens in the wet with all of that spray coming up and cars driving close together. But at the end of the day, those that could survive all got a good finish. Those that could survive and drive, they're up the front in that top 10. And well done and congratulations to every driver who got up in that top 10 tonight.
Yeah, difficult night at the office. There's a number of drivers that I'm hoping will jump down for a quick chat to us if we can. So I'll just see if there's a couple of drivers that actually are going to be available. Trying to look for Stewie Shaw we will have access to. So we might start with our 3rd place finisher in terms of the podium, and we might wait on to see if Owen Coleman is actually available. Indeed, he is. So good news for you. We'll start off though from the bottom end of the podium, driving the 93 machine. Stewie Shaw, tough, tricky night here in that 93 Porsche. Some penalties there to go by the way by, but boy, that was difficult with when you add rain.
Yeah, God, I'm glad to talk to you boys. Those first 2 rounds were a shocker. So yeah, happy to finally be up the front end at the finish line.
Well, I think it's a case, still, you've always been competitive, but it's a case where you just had to get there in the end, at the level that you are capable of driving, and you've shown that tonight. But not only that, you've fought through a whole lot of rain as well. So, the start of that race where you were just running in second behind, I think it was Greg Brooks. How did you go with all the spray? Were you like fighting him, or were you just sort of cruising around for survival?
No. So Greg and I, we teamed up at Track 6 Racing, and when he kind of got the gap on me, I was just rear gunner for him. So calling out gaps to him, telling him no risk, all that kind of thing. So yeah, and then we tangled actually on pit exit, which I was trying to yell out to him on the radio, but I think he had me on mute.
Team drivers. I speculated that the Discord conversation between the two of you might be an interesting one to be involved in at the time. But that was a little bit of a tangle, and it sort of upset both your races because obviously he got a penalty, and you had the spin, and you've had to fight back. So
yeah, that was the unsafe rejoin. So I think it was Rue. Apologies to him, but I'm hoping. I was just watching that gap at the end, knowing that 5-second penalty was over my head, and just trying to manage it back to fourth.
Yeah. Well, good on you, mate. That was a lovely drive, and it's good to see you up there at the front of the championship. I like seeing the new names, and you're one of them that's come in for this season, and putting a fight to the boys that were up there and won the championship last season. So great to have you here, and congratulations tonight on P3.
Yeah, thanks, guys. See you at the next one.
Mate, first before you go, can you just let us know what was the issue with Greg Brooks's pit stop? Because we were looking for it. Couldn't find it.
So he had a stop and go penalty. He didn't clear a slowdown in time, so we had to throw it back in.
Because we were looking at it, it was just after the pit stop, and we couldn't see anything to do with the pit stop was the problem, so it was actually that slowdown penalty. So
yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't clear in time.
Righto. Well, that explains that one and sends him back to the naughty corner. Thank you very much for your time there, Stewie. Have a good night, brother.
Guys. See you.
Well, in the meantime, our second place finisher, Ben Jeffrey, has had to toddle off, so won't have the opportunity to chat to him here tonight. I was hoping that we might get a quick opportunity to chat to him before he had to bail, but not going to be the case. What that will mean, though, is that we are now going to chat to tonight's winner, driver of the 97, Owen Coleman. Owen, that looked like a first to last, a first challenge.
Yeah, that the start didn't exactly go to plan. I just wanted to say sorry to Pringle for tagging him. I couldn't do anything to stop.
It was a change in conditions just after that safety car, because just before it, there was a lot more grip than there was after it. And you weren't the only driver it caught out. It caught out a ton of drivers. Talk to us about the changeable conditions throughout the night. Were you searching for the grip? Was the grip level changing just about every single lap, or did it ever stabilize?
It felt overall pretty stable in general. It was mainly just the restarts when everyone was sort of cold and it was a bit tricky, but yeah, I think after a while, it seemed like the rain almost stopped for a little bit and then sort of come back again. So I was just trying to keep my head down and just focus. I was a bit annoyed, but it happens in wet races. So yeah.
How was the overtaking there tonight? Because obviously, incredibly normally Zolder's just a narrow track, day in, day out, but it narrows up a lot more when you add water into the mix.
Yeah, definitely with in the rain, it sort of equalizes a lot of the cars. So you almost try to set up a pass, and there's just no traction to keep the pass going. So I think there was a few times I was probably a bit lucky that the other driver decided to ease up a bit into the corner. Overall, I thought it was good fun.
In terms of things, how that one all shakes out, where would you rate that race in everything that you've done thus far? Because that's surely got to be right up there.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely feel that was probably my best race, besides the the accident at the start. But no, I was sort of just kept my head down. I was just driving angry, if anything, and then yeah, when I ended up having to pit for repairs, I just topped it up and changed the tyres so I could sort of run a bit longer compared to everyone else. And then, yeah, I was just keeping an eye on how much fuel I needed at the next stop, and added just a smidge more just in case it was dried up any more and burned a bit more fuel. So just wanted to cover myself. And then I saw a few guys starting to stop, and I think I was sitting third at the time, and I wasn't 100% sure if the guys in front were going to pit or not. And then I saw them veer off, and I was like, oh, I might actually be in for a good shot here. So I was pretty much just tried to keep it on the track. I think I might have had like one or two sort of moments into some of the braking zones, but overall, no, I was, yeah, felt very, very happy with my drive.
Mate, floor's all yours now. Thank you very much for joining us, but time for you to thank those sponsors and make it possible for you.
Obviously, everybody at Premier Endurance League, Gaming Gear Direct, Motorsport Hauler, Gecko. Sorry, my brain's a bit blank at the moment, but yeah, literally just everyone that comes aboard. Like, we majorly thanks to everyone. A massive thanks, I should say. Yeah, it really couldn't be to the quality that it is, and yeah, just thanks everyone, and cheers anyone that tuned in.
What about Dutchy? Give us a shout out for Dutchy.
Yeah, it's a bit of a last moment thing. He wasn't too sure if he was going to make it or not. So hopefully you're feeling better, Dutchy, and hopefully see you in the next race.
Right, thank you very much for your time, Owen. Pleasure chatting to you as usual, and we'll see you out here, I'm sure, next time in a couple of weeks for the next GT4 race, brother.
No worries, guys. You have a good night.
And finally, we've got one more person we're going to chat to. It's not going to be our race leader and our race winner in terms of the Challenger class, but it is going to be second place in terms of Challenger class. We always try to get one of the Challenger class drivers in here to chat to. Tonight, it's going to be Rain Campbell. Well, Rain, it's in the name. It's rain, and it's affected the racing there tonight. Have you got us?
Yeah, mate. Got ya. How we going, boys?
Mate, an opportunity to walk the punt out. How many times has people been talking to you thus far since Rain's landed on the sim? And have you earned the name Rainmaster yet?
Oh, I don't think so. That's my first rain race that I've done in probably 4 years. I took a lot of time off and played Gran Turismo for a couple of years, and they barely do any rain racing. So this was literally the first rain race I've done in years. So pretty crazy, but.
Yeah, Ray, you are allowed to tell Scotty just to shut up for the stupid puns, mate. To be honest, fabulous driving. I was seeing where you were sitting in the championship, P17 in the Challenger, but to come off and pull a P2 tonight effectively for the Challenger class. You had Brock behind you and fighting, and but you also had a fight all the way along. It was like a really good group of challengers along that race. Was that on your mind? Were you able to separate the elite guys as they come through with the ones you're racing?
Look, since I've come into this and driving the BMW, I've really struggled. So I've felt really uncomfortable in the car all the time. So I was just trying to focus on keeping the car on the road and trying to go quick, because I've just felt so slow the whole time. But it wasn't on my mind too much. I knew that I was P2 in class when it was sort of coming towards the end. I had a couple of scary moments as the track was drying up, but we kept it on the road. So
that's awesome. Yep, over to you, Scotty.
I was just going to say, I'm just trying to get up the calendar. So that ticks Zolder off in terms of things. Next time out, we're going to be heading over to Twin Rim Motegi. So we've done a Euro trip, and that's been all well and good. Now we're off to Japan next before we'll finally finish it up at Spa, mate. Twin Rim Motegi's tight and twisty, not necessarily going to be the BMW strong point.
Yeah, we'll see how we go. I'll try. What date is that? Is that towards the end of April or early May?
That is a great question. I had it up and I've immediately closed it to look at something else. But for the GT3 race, will be the 5th of May will be the next race from that one. In terms of the GT4 calendar, we'll be heading to Motegi on the 28th of April.
I think I'm actually missing that GT3 race. So it's I'm on holidays that date, so it won't be seeing the track, the old Bilstein BMW, unfortunately.
Well, mate, it's a pleasure to have you here tonight. It's your opportunity to thank all the sponsors, anyone that makes it possible for you. Any other shout outs you've got to make, now would be the time.
Yeah, thanks to Team Kamikaze for all their hard work, getting the car set up. And shout out to Jackson Prindle, actually. He hooked me up with a setup for this week, so I was very grateful for that. It changed sort of what I was driving originally to what I was driving now. It's sort of, a completely different car, so thanks for that. And yeah, shout out to all the guys at Premier Endurance League and you guys especially. Sitting there for 2 hours watching us crash into each other.
Righto, boys. Thank you very much for your time, Rain. We'll see you next time out. Go and get some more rain practicing because I'm going to be walking those puns out, brother.
Thanks, guys.
And Pete, that is going to wrap us up here from tonight. I know it's low-hanging fruit. I know it's an opportune pun, but boy, is it still good to make. I'm sorry, puns are the spice of life.
Not that obvious, mate. You got to get. Come on, there's another level of pun that you can make, right? And I feel sorry for the poor fella, but good on him for getting his P2. Right, you better wrap it up, mate. We're calling out here.
Yep, that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once more for joining us for the Gamer Gear Direct GT3 Endurance Championship. Also want to say another shout out to the Print Racer brand as well. Come on board. Don't forget there's a April only special for 5 free cable clips over at printracer.etsy.com. Gamer Gear Direct. If you're looking for a simulation specialist, be it golf, be it flight sim, be it racing sim, you can get all your gear from Gamer Gear Direct. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been the 2 hours from Circuit Zolder. We'll see you next time for more Premier Endurance Racing action.